welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
Benjamin Reeves.
The best for last.
And Matt Miller. The best.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. Miller, what a week this is.
It's crazy.
How would you describe this week at Game Informer?
There's been so much happening around the Game Informer office.
We had an issue meeting yesterday.
Yep.
For
Chaos.
an unnamed issue.
Just insane stuff.
We have a cover reveal next week, so next week's podcast we'll talk about that game, which is going to be very interesting.
There's a lot of people playing games right now.
It is. It's a
There's
busy time,
so
man.
many cool games. I mean, not to spoil end of the year discussions, but there's a lot of good games this year.
And we haven't even played Red Dead yet.
I know. There's a lot of really good games. I can't keep up. Struggling.
I recommend not playing Dragon Quest XI if you're having a tough time keep up with other games, because I want to start Shadow of the Tomb Raider. There's so many games I want to start already, but it's like,
You don't need to.
I'm 40 hours in. I got to keep going with Dragon Quest. I got to finish this off before I
do it,
even
man.
think about touching anything
And you
else.
got to go 100 hours on that thing?
I think I can finish it in 65. This is going to be my...
Speed run.
All right.
Yeah.
By the
Speed
time you're
running Dragon
65,
Not
you'll
helping
finally be able to
any
play other
civilians, just beelining right to the next objective.
See ya.
We have a good show, Miller. A real good show here.
I'm excited.
Talking about, Jesus, this other game I want to play. Forza Horizon 4. Then we're going to talk Life is Strange 2, and then a very natural segue into talking about the closing of Telltale. What a crazy week in games. It's just unreal. So we should have hopefully some insight into that situation. And then Kim is going to talk about her magical trip over to Japan for the Tokyo Game Show, some exciting games she saw there. So if you like Japan, like this podcast. I think it's how the equation has to go.
Breaking Japan news.
That's right. And then community emails in the back half of the show. Reeves. we
Oh,
did it.
boy. We
Spider-Man
did it.
Game Club, Part 3, the grand finale.
Oh.
The whole kit
So you've
and
all
caboodle.
finished it now.
We have
That's right.
all finished
Finally.
it.
The web did
All
all
right.
up.
And also, everybody's stuck with this game club. Unless like Serial bails before we record this thing, I think it's going to happen. It's crazy.
It's exciting stuff.
It is super fun.
I heard he wasn't feeling so good.
Oh no! Don't say it. Yeah, so we're talking about everything in Spider-Man, the final act. So we've got so many great emails. We'll dive into it. We'll have a lot of fun talking about all that, because turns out Reiner was right. There is some stuff to talk about, which is very intriguing. Okay, for now, Forza Horizon 4.
Yeah.
Andrew Reiner, you're reviewing this thing, and then you roped in two Drivatar buddies here with Ben Reeves and Matt Miller.
That's all we actually are.
And
is
Jeff
Drivatars.
Cork. He's actually live streaming Assassin's Creed as this is being
Oh,
recorded.
that's
But,
true. Yeah, check out that.
yeah, this is my racing team. Real short. Forza Horizon is my favorite racing series out there right now.
Really?
It's blend of arcade racing, over the top, chaotic track designs, with those tuner options that you find in your simulations, and that kind of stock of cars too.
Yeah.
Creates a really compelling mixture for me. And Forza Horizon 4 is the best entry in that series yet.
Really?
So, yes. And a lot of it has to do with just how much content is offered. It is, it's like the everlasting gobstopper of racing games. You finish a race, you get 3 more. You take down a billboard, you find out you got another 200 to get. You go on a new track, and it's like you have 500 more to find. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how much content is here in this open world. In the open world itself, set in Britain now, is stunning. Beautiful, right? Like very scenic. And at first, it looks like these fields don't look like there's going to be much action on them, right? Like, it's just a big farm field. But then you realize, like, next thing you know, you go across that field at 180 miles an hour, and then you're launching off a mountain, flying 600 feet in the air. The track designs are great and feature all 4 seasons. So they recreated the open world 4 times.
Right.
For
More
each
than a
season.
palette swap. Yeah.
Yeah,
much
like,
more than palette
I mean,
swap.
it's, fall brings the beauty you would expect with the leaves and all that. Summer, it's like you'd expect there's maybe dry terrain and the sun shining, but there's a lot of rain, puddles. Spring brings that as well.
England.
And then winter, it's like Game of Thrones, that ominous saying of winter is coming. It's
A lot of White Walkers.
It's crazy
Yeah,
how many
it's insane.
fantasy zombies there
But
are.
so you let's say you take on a race, you could go back there in a different season and it'll have a different identity, and that the elements from the season will make it more challenging.
and
It was
different, different
easier.
cars that you're going to want to
Yeah,
use there.
yeah.
For sure.
Like a snowmobile.
Yeah.
No, not
Yeah.
I
quite.
haven't seen those. It was cool because like I was on my way to a destination and it was winter, and I was like used to driving that way, but then it was winter and I realized like, oh wait, this lake is frozen over. I can now drive across it. So that was kind of fun.
That's so much fun. Did you feel like, as a huge fan of Forza Horizon 3, I loved that environment so much. I loved Australia. And I feel like with the announcement of the setting, it was like, England is lovely. but doesn't seem as much fun or as cool as Australia. But the weather thing just pushes it over the top.
Oh yeah, you like Reeves says, you discover new things with the different seasons. At least winter brings new elements. Right?
Yeah.
But there's like beaches, castle areas,
Ooh.
small. There's nothing like a metropolitan area, but there are little kind of quaint towns.
There's a lot of
that you go
really cute
into.
towns that are like, oh, if I was on vacation, I would love to visit this place.
There's a really compelling juxtaposition of the idyllic scenery with the intensity of the racing that I really like in this game. That was present in Forza Horizon 3, but I think they've really doubled down on it here, and especially in like some of those showcase races, you're going through just these gorgeous locales, but ridiculous stuff is happening. You've got dirt bikes jumping over you, and
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil all of them,
Yeah.
but they're like
There's a hover
those
ship.
Those are some of my favorites, actually.
they're really good.
You're always like racing something crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of something crazy, tell me if this is a spoiler, Renner. I'll hint towards it. But you said there's one mission that's very
they've-
Xbox themed.
Yeah, they've released footage of it. And
What
all
is
that.
this?
It's
Break it
Halo.
down.
There's a Halo track where you're in a warthog. You're playing as Master Chief, but they changed the terrain. You see the Halo in the background, and there's Halo music and commentary and ships
Commentary?
and vehicles and stuff in the terrain. You know, those energy shields, all that stuff. You're
Oh,
seeing all
cool.
that on the track.
But also, it's still England?
Yes, and they comment.
Yeah,
on
Halo's
that,
just England. Weren't you paying attention to
Oh
the
my
lore?
gosh, I
but
missed
they,
that.
they comment on it like they have come back in time to this period, and they're like, "What is going on here?"
So Master Chief is like the new Jeremy Clarkson for this?
Yeah,
like,
basically.
what the
Yeah.
hell is going on?
But the funny thing about just how beautiful this world is, and they have like these landmark locations you go to, and they're like, "Oh, this landscape is sacred," you know, like. People travel here to take photos on it. And then the next race, you're just driving over it.
driving through the walls.
Or it's
Music blaring.
It's like, look at this old church. It's been here for centuries. And it's like, can you break the billboard on top of it?
My time with the game has gotten across to me the sense that Forza Horizon 4 is like the most popcorn racing game I've ever played.
But it's still simmy enough, like Reiner was talking about.
It can
you know?
be. It can be. If you
I
turn
think
up
it-
the difficulty, it can be.
I
Sure,
think
yeah.
it can be, but I think the experience that most people are going to have is that if you just go in and you let the game carry you along, you're going to have the best time that you can have with it.
And you can literally do that by just like hitting, was it left on the D-pad, at least in 3,
yeah.
and just give you the next thing
you
to
can
do.
you can
constantly.
do that, but you can also just like go to whatever's closest on your map. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that says it's new. I'll go over and do that thing. There's a lot of meters and progressions and stuff that you could get kind of lost in.
Mm-hmm.
And in my first couple hours of playing the game, I was tempted to get too involved with that stuff, and it started getting me frustrated.
The Destiny spirit kicked in.
Well, I was like, how should I maximize? How should I speed up my progression and all that kind of stuff? And after a couple hours, I realized that was probably the wrong approach for this game, and that I was going to have more fun if I just abandoned myself to the insanity of I'm just going in and I'm racing, and I don't know what I'm doing or when I'm doing it, and I don't know what that icon means, and I don't know what all these meters are, and I get to spin a gambling wheel? Sure, let's do it. I don't know why did that happen. Who knows?
That's how you feel most of the time.
To be fair, yeah.
Just to be clear, though, Miller, when you're talking about a gambling wheel in a racing game, I think of that Need for Speed payback. This
Yeah,
isn't
no,
like
it's not
some
like that.
microtransaction.
There's
like,
no microtransactions, but it is a
there are.
wheel. Okay.
but it's
there-
not on the wheel.
No, not on the wheel.
Not
so
on the
there's
wheel.
when you level up or complete specific things, you get to spin a wheel for a random prize.
Okay.
That prize could be a car, currency, or horns for your car.
Yes.
So
Like what,
have
Cucaracha?
they
all
have the
sorts of
Halo
crazy stuff.
theme, Sea of Thieves.
Hey, guys, stuff. I need to know.
The
Is the
wedding
Halo
theme?
theme? Ha! Just
So you
very-
for your horn, you get the wedding thing.
Is the Halo theme, is it like, does it sound like a horn? Like,
Yes.
is it,
Yes. Yes.
so stupid. I love it.
So I have the Killer Instinct one right now.
that's
But then
good.
you could also get, they obviously really understood how popular Fortnite was. So they take your driver out of the car,
No.
where you get outfits for your driver and dance moves, including floss.
Wait a minute. So you can can you run around the world
Nope,
outside the car?
it's just when you win a race, he's out of the car, or
You
she's
have
out
like
of
a
the car,
fanfare. You do,
and you see them dance.
Yeah, like
That's
a little
awesome.
Any
showcase
loading
moment.
screen is you usually like dancing in front of your car.
Looking like an idiot.
Christ, what's happening? Reese, I heard you mention something that I loved about the last one too, but it is jarring. The idea that you can like put in your name. It's like choosing a custom keychain or something at a gift store, so they will constantly refer to you as Ben. Does everybody have that?
Yeah.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, it says Andrew when I turn it on.
Yeah, it
Hey
says Matt
Ben,
to me.
we just did this.
Yeah.
So
All right.
unnatural.
Yeah, well, and just given the amount of times they do it too, and I can't
It's constant.
figure out if it's just because I'm like not used to that in a video game, or if it's like I think they're overusing it a little.
They're
bit.
proud of it.
They
Yeah,
really are.
They're really proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real clear. The storytelling in this game is not the reason you want to play Forza Horizon.
You just got to unlock the
4.
festivals. Is that the idea again?
Well, here, there are, hold on to the table so you don't fall. There are 26 different campaigns in this game.
what the hell? Call of Duty
what
can't even
Miller's-
get one.
So what Miller's talking about there being so much stuff going on at once, there'll be a campaign for drift racing, a campaign for country racing, street racing. You know, you just keep adding on to them. But 4 of them are story-based. One of the
Okay.
stories, it's a 10-part story, so 10 races, is you're a stunt driver in a movie.
That's been
So-
some of my favorite ones so
Yeah,
far.
those
I
are
love
fun.
Stuntman.
This one you're going to love. It's a top 10 list of the greatest racing games of all time. And it starts at number 10, and it's like, number 10 is Outrun. And they start talking about the game Outrun and why it's great. And then the race you go on simulates what Outrun is right. They have that car. It's not changing the graphics, but it is.
What?
And then the next race will be number 9, and they'll be like, number 9 is Daytona, USA.
Wait, so different licenses?
Yeah, but they
That's
don't.
crazy.
They talk about them, but they don't have the actual content.
So-
Sometimes the same car, right? Like if it's like a
It's
shared
like
car.
little homage races.
This is amazing. So in a Forza Horizon game, they talk about Gran Turismo?
They talk about. Well, I don't want to give away the top 10 list, but yeah, there's. Of
course
they
it's in
talk
there.
about one of them, Smuggler's Run.
Yeah.
and you do a Smuggler's Run run.
This is the best I've ever heard. That is so fun.
And
then
number
there's-
1 is what, Forza Horizon 4? Is that
But then there's. But so those are really cool. Like I did all 10 of those in a row. Whereas
Yeah.
other events, I'm bouncing between them. Another one is renting the fastest cars in the world. So you get to experience just like going 200 miles an hour in a car that will cost you'll eventually get for like 3 million currency in the game, but
Yeah.
you get to test drive it, right?
yeah.
So
And
these
the sense
little
of speed's really good too. Like I
Oh,
just was
it's
like hauling
amazing.
across like a field, and I'm like, this is too fast. And
visually
I'm only at like 75%.
racing mechanics, just the performance of it all is fantastic.
Hang on, is this the best game ever made, you guys? It's really
You know,
sounding
one of the
great.
other things I really appreciated about the way they structured it is the dynamic difficulty options that they give you.
Okay.
You have at the beginning of any racing event the option to change out details of how many things the game is doing to help you. And depending on how you do that, boosts how quickly you progress. So you can set, the most obvious things, obviously, you can set how difficult the drivers are, the drivatars that you're going against.
Yeah.
Right? And you can move that up and down the scale as you see fit. But you can also change things like how much braking assist that it has and that kind of stuff.
Which
and-
makes it feel less arcadey.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Huh.
And so you have there's a flexibility to the game, dynamics and difficulty that I really appreciate because it sort of means that as a player, you can twist the game to be the kind of racing game you like.
Right. I love it. So this sounds absolutely fantastic.
And you can
Ryan.
play it all cooperatively or competitively. So I can go in, let's say you and I are in the shared world. The shared
Yeah.
world contains 72 racers. They're kind of ghost images going around. You could team up with them, get them into your convoy. But let's say you and I, Ben, are on a team and we want to like be cooperative.
Yeah.
Hey Ben,
It'll make
you want
the
to do
game-
co-op?
Yes.
It's great that you're racing with your friend. It makes the game more challenging because the rewind
Yeah.
functionality is gone.
Oh,
It
interesting.
just kind of places you back when you hit that now, and that's
Right.
like you're not gaining anything from that. You're just being placed behind the pack. But they reward you better in that. But if you want to be competitive, you and I could go into that race together, be against each other, but both still get progress. So no matter what you do in this game, win or lose, place first or 12th in a race, it's going to say, hey, good job, you finished that race. Here's the gold medal for completion that you completed this challenge. Go on to the next
Yeah.
one. We'll unlock
Yeah.
the other ones for
And
you.
I was playing with Reiner, and like totally biffed it, and very once in a lifetime thing, like screwed up, and I
my
ended up
God.
You've
7th.
never
Yeah,
wrecked
I
in a
almost
car
always get
racing game
first,
before.
Yeah.
You got
But
some lag or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think
was
that's what happened.
my cat chewed on the controller. Anyway, I got 7th place, but Reiner got first, and so it kind of like evened out, and we still won
Okay.
that match, which was cool.
I heard that the co-op, it takes a long time to unlock or something.
So the beginning, since there's 4 seasons, they wanted to kind of give you a taste of all of it out of the gate.
Okay.
So you're shifting from one season to the next, starting with I think it's spring, and then you eventually get all the way to winter, and then kind of roll back around to year 2 of the competition.
Okay.
But in that time, stuff is gated off. Like there's a lot of content in the game, and like Team Adventure, that's locked off. Some of the multiplayer stuff is locked off. Forzathon, which is a new hourly event that just randomly appears on the map, and that's I was talking
good.
about the shared world,
Yeah.
72 racers. They can all converge on that to take part in this like a scoring challenge, like speed trap. How fast can you get from point A to point B? Your time, 110 miles an hour, is added to the pool, and you got to
Right.
hit 5,000 total.
Okay.
So you're all racing to do those events.
And so how long does it take?
3 to 5 hours, they say.
It's been long. It was longer for me.
I feel like long goes at one point in the seasons you unlock the ability to like have people invited to your game, and so like me and Miller were like, oh cool, we unlocked multiplayer, and so we were able to jump into each other's world, but we weren't able to actually like do any races together.
You could get in a convoy together, but
Yeah.
then you can't be on the same team until you unlock certain aspects.
I would say this was the one thing of all the things I really like about this game. For me personally, the opaque nature of some of that multiplayer stuff early on
Right.
bothered me, because I literally one evening or in the when we were first getting started in the game, Ben and I were trying to do this, and we just couldn't figure out what was going on. What are these different terms mean?
Yeah, teams versus
convoys versus my
Yeah.
adventure versus
Yeah.
Forzathon, like all
Forza
these
Life,
different
yeah.
things that aren't really clarified for you, and ultimately it was like, my buddy and I want to go play in this racing game together. Why can't we
Yeah.
do that?
Okay.
I think that's the only bummer is like
That-
if
yeah.
you are looking to play with your friends, like expect that you got to like invest a couple hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, those hours are fun.
They
I
are,
mean, you're playing
absolutely.
Forza. It's
You're
a fun
playing a great
game.
racing
But
game.
if you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
play
yeah.
with your friends, just
Yeah.
no, you can't do that. Right
Yeah,
out
make
of
sure
the
you,
gate.
you put like 6 hours into it before you do that.
Right.
The other thing that's kind of a bummer is those 26 campaigns I'm talking about. Some of those are great. Other ones are like dedicated to like Mixer. So they want you to play through Mixer, which will enhance your game. You'll get more currency
Mixer's
and
a streaming
followers.
service.
Yeah, so they want you to stream online to fill this campaign, like level up in this campaign.
That's kind of gross.
Another one is like tuning cars. You know, if you don't want
Uh-huh.
to do that, they kind of force your hand in that. If you're going for the completionist run, and then there's, you know, like vinyls, making, you know, painting cars, doing all that stuff.
Okay.
So they get pretty thick in the weeds of like trying to force you into everything.
Well, it's
Yeah.
called Forza.
But the ones that are focused on the racing and the stories are very good.
Okay.
And there's a lot of it, right? I mean, you're talking about, without ever touching any of those, because a lot of those don't sound great to me either. But I've spent many hours in this game and never touched that stuff yet.
But if you do go on there and you just mess around, you're going to level up, right? So
Right.
you're like, oh, cool. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I just got a wheel spin
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
a new
yeah.
car.
I was still earning credits and like experience even that one time. I got
Right.
like 7th place.
I
So.
think it's important to stress too, because everybody just sees it as an Xbox game, but like this is also on PC. Everybody,
yeah.
like it's and cross-platform play.
And it comes out October 2nd.
Okay.
The last point, the negative point I have is fast travel is still a bit of a pain. You got to buy these houses. In the last game, they had the Forza festival sites.
Right.
There's just one now, a central festival site. Now you're buying houses, and they cost a lot of money in certain areas. But if you have like an event that's 4.5 miles away, you got to drive to it
Okay.
until you get a house that's closer in the vicinity. But as you're driving to that, you're going to get so distracted because there's so much to do, like billboards to track down,
Yeah.
you know, hidden garages that hold cars that you got to find in the wilderness. So it's not like the drive's uneventful,
Right.
but you do have to just kind of aimlessly drive for
There's
a
gonna be a
while.
lot of it. You know, it's really exciting, and it's kind of the undercurrent of this entire conversation is talking about how much stuff to do there is, how it nails, in theory, open world activities. Is it's rumored that this is the team working on a new Fable game.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking about just them nailing the open world like this and just the density. Good God.
Well, that density is exciting, and I think one of the things that I have been most excited about in some of the games that have come out recently is the idea of some of these dynamic content things that are changing over time. Mm-hmm. The recognition that with a lot of games, you're going to have people who are playing every day for weeks, right? And that they want to be able to come back a week later and have something be different. And that's what Forza Horizon 4 does. This whole season thing gives you this sense of progression over time and that the game world is changing.
And that's a very Fable thing.
And that would be awesome
Yeah.
in a game like in a like fantasy RPG to have that kind of dynamic.
Even just based on the tech they have in Forza, it's like one of the best looking games out there, and just like it runs super smooth and giant open world. Like it just looks cool. So even just having that tech underneath a Fable game seems like a win-win to me.
Oh, that's exciting. Reiner, your reviews on the site?
Yes, should be on the site now. We're waiting on one answer on multiplayer.
Sure. Okay.
Just how it all works, like exactly what you can and can't do at certain times. But yeah, should be on the site soon.
Cool. There we go. Love you guys. Do you want to clap out of here?
You got it.
Hey, we have Kimberly Wallace.
Hey, yo.
We have Elise Favis.
Hey.
Old Giggletown here. We're talking about Life is Strange 2.
Yes.
You guys
We
both
are.
played episode 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is very exciting. And
I
what-
reviewed it.
Oh, there we go. Is the review on the site?
The review is up.
What'd you think?
I gave it an 8.25.
There we go.
I
Okay.
liked it quite a bit. So, it's you leave behind the story of Max and Chloe for new characters, new environment. And we're instead introduced to Sean and Daniel. Sean's a teenage boy. Daniel's, I think, 9. And they go through something really traumatic in their home in Seattle.
Uh-huh.
And it's basically like a police altercation, and they have to leave without a moment's notice, really, and they're fleeing to Mexico.
Okay, so episode 1. I
Yeah.
assume you're not getting to Mexico. That's on the horizon, right? But it's just like starting out, them walking through the woods.
That's their plan.
Okay.
Basically, the first episode is their start of their journey.
You know that plan's not going to work, but
I have a feeling they're going to meet some folks along the way.
yeah, right?
Is it, okay, first question. Is it connected to Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit?
Yes. Well, we don't see any huge connections yet. I
Okay.
mean, there are some, but we don't. He doesn't. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but
Please don't.
he is supposed. There are definitely connections there.
To the
and-
point that you'd recommend people play that before they start Life is Strange
Oh, yeah.
episode 1?
I think so.
Okay, because that was that free episode that was
Yeah.
surprisingly good and cool. Yeah. So you're digging it so far, but does it have some hook like the first Life is Strange had in terms of like the rewind powers?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
there's. I think they're gonna get more into the power in the second game because they had like a little tease, but there's something that awakens the power in Daniel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
Awakens. Think of it.
And it's very confusing at first, I think, for
Yeah.
both the boys. And
Yeah.
they're kind of coming to terms with what
Yeah,
happened.
they're trying to figure out what the heck's going on with him. It's
Okay.
like this little kid gets this mysterious power out of nowhere. There's an emotionally charged scene which triggers it. So they haven't really gone into.
So it's not a gameplay mechanic yet?
Not
or
yet.
anything like that?
It's
Okay.
not. And I don't know if it will be.
Yeah, but they did hint at the end, like he was, showing him how to.
Do some stuff?
Yes.
That sounds neat. Kim, are you as into it as you were hoping for?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised. I wasn't sure. It's so hard when you introduce people to a new cast, and I
yeah.
really loved Max. She was a great protagonist. It's like leaving that behind was a little bittersweet for me, but I get why they did it. And I didn't expect to connect with these characters as fast as I did. I mean, the dialogue is much better than I feel like the first season was. There's
hope
there's
so.
some moments, but overall
Yeah.
better. And I feel like what's interesting here is kind of the brother dynamic of, you have that annoying little brother, but then you want to protect your brother, and kind of seeing that through the eyes of also they're dealing with some issues of racism and all that going on too.
Really?
So it gets really I was surprised how far they went with some of the political stuff, and I'm happy they did because there's a line in there. It's like everything is political, and
I
think
loved that scene.
That's a perfect line.
And
to say
it is an
you
amazing
can't
line.
escape it, but it does get into those heavier topics, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to approach it for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I liked that writing also just because it's almost like they're talking to the games community as a whole.
Yeah.
In a way, you know, like, hey, come on,
But
everything's
it's great
political.
too because they hid how
great.
much they do go into it.
Yeah.
And it kind of is a nice surprise to just see them not be afraid to touch that issue, which
Yeah.
is so polarizing right now. And just like I said, I'm really interested with how it's going to play out.
And this has to do with the police, I'd imagine, in the beginning.
Yes.
It
That's
has to do with the
largely what you're
police
talking about.
and just in terms of like the political climate, because it takes place in October 2016. So they mentioned
Oh,
the
really?
election.
Yeah, and just people like
Yeah.
racial
Okay.
profiling in general. Like
You look through the phone and your friend is like, he's not really going to win, is he? So there are,
Do they say the words Donald Trump in this game?
They
no,
don't.
but they do reference the wall.
they do reference
really?
the wall. They
Yeah.
talk, you know, the main character receives scrutiny over whether he's like a real American citizen.
Yeah,
and
there's tons of that.
Are they going to Mexico to build the wall? Were they so empowered at a rally? They decided to hike down there?
They gotta escape. you know?
Okay, all right.
It's like people are mad at them, and they didn't. It's not their fault.
it's not
I'd
their fault. It's
imagine.
really sad. I actually cried while I played.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
This is a whole thing. Okay.
I must
And the
have-
first episode. This is like the lighthearted
yeah,
beginning.
wow! I must have a stone heart because I did not. I didn't cry, but like I liked where everything was going. and
Yeah,
I, felt bad
I was
for them.
really.
There are some
into
really
it.
emotional scenes with the older brother.
Okay.
So sad.
Is it like the same level? Because I think what's amazing about Life is Strange games compared to Telltale, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is just like the amount of things you can interact with. Like it doesn't really hold your hand, and I imagine it's the same levels of Life is Strange Season 1, everything there, Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You can, it starts off in Sean's house, and you can explore the whole house, and it has that same feeling of everything feel very like lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house was the best for the exploration,
was
and then they
great.
kind of get on the road, and it gets a little more like not as much to do, but there are stuff. But you have to like search and go off the beaten path
You
for
have
some
to
of it.
explore
Yeah.
that in
Okay.
the forest. There are things to do. Like,
Yeah.
Is it just for this entire season? I'm trying to figure out how they're doing the travel structure. Is it going to be a lot of you holding forward and just walking down a road? Like,
I mean, there is some of that, but there's
Okay.
also like they get to places through cars and other
yeah,
things.
or they go to pit stops like
Yeah.
gas stations and things
Right.
like that. So there are people that you meet along the way. I had a very strong, like speaking of Telltale, actually, like very strong Walking Dead vibe every once in a while. Just
Yes.
like Lee and Clementine.
Yeah, I was
that
actually
dynamic.
thinking that when I was playing. I was like, oh
Yeah.
God, I feel like I'm scavenging for like food and trying to
Yeah.
figure out like, should I steal this or no? Like, or not. There's stuff like in a car. And it's like, do you want to steal? Are they? But this is straight out of The Walking
know,
Dead.
right?
Really?
Like the minute
Car
you,
stuff,
it's one of
yeah.
the first scenes that you get when you enter the forest, and the car just sitting there. Like, do you want to steal this candy bar or not? That's like wedged in, and I'm like, oh, this is so Walking Dead.
and you both
Yeah.
grabbed the candy bar.
I did
right?
not.
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
and that's what made you cry then? Is that the difference?
I'm the honest.
I was
honest
like, oh,
girl.
I'm gonna
What
give my
have I
little bro
become?
this candy bar.
I was worried somebody was gonna see me, and I was like,
I
I'm
didn't
already
see
on
any
the list. I think I
consequences.
overanalyze every decision I make in these
That's
games.
the point of these games, isn't it? That's
Well,
all
it's
you
like
got.
you think there's like gonna be some repercussions or something if you do it, and then you're like, oh wait, I really wanted to do that, but I didn't because I thought it would screw my character over. Oh, it really didn't. So
Yeah.
I don't know why I still play them that way though. Like it's like I still think, oh, what if they get it this way?
I get
Yeah.
it.
What if this comes back to haunt me?
It will. 8.25.
8.25.
Very exciting. Elise, I think it's time we talk about Telltale. We've been dancing around it this entire episode.
Yeah.
And to do that, I need you to clap very loudly into the microphone.
All right.
Okay. Here we go. Ben Reeves and Andrew Rayner join the
Hello.
fray. We're talking Telltale. Kim's still here.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. What the hell is going on in the video game industry?
Oh my gosh, it's
This
somber.
is crazy.
It's insane. So Telltale closed effectively. It's a
Kinda,
weird
yeah.
middle ground, right? Where it's like, they have a skeleton crew, 25 people in theory finishing off Minecraft, but they just, bam, fired 250 people, no severance, kicked them out the door. What a world.
I mean, I was in the middle of reviewing the final season of The Walking Dead.
Right.
I don't know what's it's kind of weird to think that I won't finish that at all. I mean, there's talks that they might have some.
Well,
way to
what'd
do
you
it,
hear on that front?
that it also caused some controversy because they said other companies were going to help them release the final 2 episodes, but maybe you should pay your workers before.
That's the thing. So
Yeah.
everyone's like, I'm sure there's a fan outcry saying,
Yeah.
hey, we want the end of The Walking Dead. People have been invested for a long time, want to see the grand finale. They build this as the final season. And then it's, nope, we're not going to finish. I'm sorry, everybody. And now they said, maybe we will. And it's like, well, if you have some money to finish off those episodes, give them to your employees that you just laid
they
off.
build it so hard too that was our last hurrah with Clementine, which like is kind of special because that first game is really what put them on the map, the very first season, and then she was a big part of that. So kind of sad if I don't get to see what happens to her, but I want people to get paid and I want people to not, I hate what happened. So it's like the fan in me would like to see it. The fan in me also can acknowledge that it's a crappy situation all around.
It's a mess either way. Like, is there a best case scenario where they could release the episodes and that would make them money to pay their employees? Is that too rose-colored
nothing's
glasses?
going to keep the studio open.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have money. That's why they're not paying their employees. I mean, it sucks, but I agree.
Definitely, And so everybody online is certainly blaming leadership, saying like, how could you mismanage
that
things
badly?
to this degree? Where it's like, oh, last second, all right, everyone's fired. Bye. It's like
especially because they had put out all the release dates for the final season of The Walking Dead just like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
It was not that long ago.
And they also announced Wolf Among Us Season 2 coming in the future.
Like that morning that they closed, they were like putting stuff up on Twitter and stuff. It was crazy.
Well, I mean, I think they were thinking, their lifeline is going to be Walking Dead. Like, will we be able to sustain with this? They just released, the first, 2 episodes?
No, only the first.
Or the first one, and then they have
The
3
second
episodes left?
the second was supposed to come out this week. I went to try to go play it. It got pulled from the Steam store, so only few people have been able to play it if you got it early enough.
Oh, interesting.
Unfortunately, we were in issue meeting when it went live, and I couldn't go into it. So it's like I can't even play that now. I don't know if anything's going to change where Steam will let me access it, but I can't.
Do we know why they pulled it after putting it up?
Because I think they just felt bad
thing?
selling this game that was never going to be finished. And so when you're asking people to pay full price for something and then it's just going to go off into oblivion.
Sure.
I guess that's the idea. Is there, and I know focusing on the game is not fair to everyone who was laid off. It's a brutal situation. But at the same time, is there like a universe where maybe this is a best case scenario where everybody gets to have fond, I don't know, more interesting memories of Walking Dead now that it will never be finished? Does it feel a little bit like James Dean dying while he's young or something, where it's
like a legacy of like maybe she lived, maybe she didn't.
Maybe,
people can have their own theories. What happened to Clem?
Sure. Star Trek getting canceled in the 3rd season, kind of thing.
I don't know. Maybe a little bit. It'll always be like this legend that Walking Dead never finished at Telltale. Instead of like people love a lot of Telltale games. I certainly didn't feel a lot of enthusiasm for that final season. Even the reviews didn't seem hot out of the gate for episode 1. And maybe this is a best case scenario for the overall Walking Dead story. Is that crazy? Is that dark?
I think it's
dark. Yeah.
I think it might be even if they get the funding or someone else steps in to do the final episodes, are they going to be true to what that vision was?
Yeah,
Will it be the same quality, right? Like, so you got to like, you have that concern right there that the final chapter, you already got to put an asterisk on it.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of agree with you, Hanson, that yes, it sucks that we've been invested this long in this story arc about this girl. We've watched her grow up in this series has had great stories, right?
Yeah.
And great moments. And now we really won't know how it ends according to their vision, Telltale's vision. I think leaving it open-ended is probably the best scenario you can think of right now, unless the original dev team comes back, or the ones that were working on this entry, gets paid, feels comfortable enough to deliver the same quality
because they couldn't
game.
even because of licensing issues and stuff, they couldn't even kickstart to finish it either. The people who created it, if it's outside of Telltale, they couldn't do that. I'm just trying to think of in a world where there's no way we get it. I mean,
and even do you think fans would accept if it's like some sort of the beginning of Mass Effect 2 where it kind of reflected on Mass Effect 1, you had to make those choices. It was just like a series of stills and you could kind of work your way through it like a comic book panel or something. Maybe there's some middle ground.
I think you're totally right. You just got to let it go. Yeah.
Man, that's brutal.
Can you imagine just what was it, 7 years ago that the first season came out?
2012,
Felt like it was a long time ago. But just how high they were riding after the success of that thing, and they were winning Game of the Year awards left and right, and it's just everybody was like, this is cool, and they reinvigorated that industry basically, the whole
adventure genre.
Yeah. Nobody was talking about adventure games back then, and if you had said oh, this is gonna how they're end, you'd be like, what?
Well,
they're just gonna kind of putter along and then fade into.
They were smart with the properties they got in that they were experiences you didn't get elsewhere, where you had a really good Walking Dead experience. You had The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah.
They were taking you to new worlds, but when they went to Batman, Borderlands, and Minecraft, I'm like, there's really great games of these already, and this is just kind of a weird Telltale version of them, right? Like they weren't as exciting to me just because I already had great game experiences in those places.
Regard what the Borderlands won pretty well, and the second season of Batman, people say that was pretty good.
People loved it, but nobody played it, though.
That's the thing. It's like I wasn't compelled to play those because I feel like I'd played that formula so much.
And Reiner, if you're not playing the second season of Batman,
Yeah.
no one is. Honestly,
I played the first episode. I didn't like it. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
But I heard it gets a lot better after that one. Like it's pretty common that first episode, people saying like that one wasn't great, but then it really picks up steam.
Right.
But yeah, I just didn't feel compelled to go to those games.
Yeah.
I've played so many Telltale games up to that point. I latched on to more of the unique experiences where they had a unique voice in the industry, opposed to, Rocksteady makes the best Batman games. Sorry, even if you have a great story, like that is the true Batman experience.
And it is different enough, yeah. I think it's just a nice reminder of like how fragile absolutely everything in the game industry is. Like Telltale, you just take them for granted. Like, hey, let's make fun of the new episodes that's coming out. Here we go, Telltale Game Engine, and it's like, oh, they're gone. It's just like you take everything for granted, and it's just bam, things can disappear.
And I think Stranger Things probably would have done pretty well for them.
Yeah,
like that seemed like one of those properties that's hot. There isn't a lot of stuff in the game space in that capacity, and they could do something with it.
Yeah.
Although Guardians of the Galaxy may be the same story, but oof, that was a brutal game.
Yeah.
That was a brutal game. I played 2 of those episodes. I was like, oof.
I'm good.
So you were compelled to play the Guardians of the Galaxy, but not Batman, huh?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like,
Try it.
hey, what's a Guardians game like? I want to experience that.
All right.
Whereas Batman, I know.
What are like some of your favorite Telltale memories, Telltale episodes, Telltale specific chunks of gaming here?
That ending of the first
Walking Dead.
Last
season,
episode.
yes, I freaking cried. I haven't had a game make me cry like that I don't think ever. Like I was sobbing.
You were sobbing like Elise playing Life is Strange 2 episode 1.
I was just like, I wasn't expecting to even be that emotionally impacted. Like I knew I'd grown attached to Clementine and like I liked her relationship with Lee, but when everything played out, I was just like, damn, like this is powerful that a game made me feel like this.
Yeah.
And it felt like a good moment for video game storytelling. I think that's what else I liked about that first season of The Walking Dead. It brought back a focus on narrative in a way that like it hasn't been put front and center in a lot of games, because they like totally were dialing back on gameplay and just, we are about the narrative. And like I said, that became more and more evident throughout the games. And they still, throughout their run, even for me I've been reviewing The Walking Dead now 4 seasons. There is still good writing in it throughout. Like, it's not that it was awful or anything. It just it stopped doing things that were surprising and new.
Right.
So that was the problem.
Yeah.
I remember playing that first episode of the first season, and I think I was reviewing it and trying to convince everybody on staff, like, hey, this game's actually kind of good, guys. You should pay attention to this Walking Dead game from Telltale. They're like, what are you talking about?
Telltale, the Back to the Future Jurassic Park team?
Yeah.
What the hell are you
exactly.
talking about?
But it was like crazy, like, oh, you can have a game that's pretty much just story? And I think this was pre-Gone Home, right? So it was like, that idea wasn't that solidified in the industry yet. It was cool to see.
I mean, it started up all those conversations that people had. Is this a game? And like, that was interesting to see that it sparked that up, but it got even more and more like fuel to the fire as it went on. But it really did show that like a game does not have to have all these flashy mechanics to be fun, to be considered a game.
Totally.
And I like that they kind of set that and started down that road.
And even like it had a big impact. Like I know Bruce and Neil from Naughty Dog on The Last of Us, they were committed to having realistic graphics for The Last of Us, because they're like, well, to make an emotional punch for a video game, you have to be realistic. And then they said that they played Walking Dead, and we're like, damn it, we were wrong. We could have gone stylized the whole time.
So now halfway through The Last of Us Part 2, we're going to see it. Change in the
she puts on
quality.
her cell suit.
Yeah, it's like
very
South
cool.
Park.
Yeah.
I think for me, just their format, the episodic format, I really liked. Like returning to a world, like having that big cliffhanger, and then having those water cooler conversations about it, and then coming back a month or 2 later and continuing it. I like that a lot. And it also allowed people like to have that conversation of, oh, I'll play it when it's all done. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. They had something cool going there.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody remembers like The Walking Dead on like that once they hit that formula, but like one of my favorite games Telltale ever did was Puzzle Agent.
Hell yeah, Puzzle
remember that
Agent.
game?
Yes, it's awesome.
That was like I think it honestly is their best game. I mean, Walking Dead had the story, but like Puzzle Agent was so unique and different.
And it has a story.
It does have a story, which is actually kind of fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's about this guy who's a puzzle agent. He works. Do you remember this? You played Hanson, right?
Yeah,
He's like a puzzle agent for the government.
The government has a puzzle agency, and he gets sent out basically to a set from Fargo.
Yeah.
To like solve. It is Professor Layton meets Fargo.
Yeah, it's super
with like a
bizarre.
really unique art style. You can play it on every system. Yeah, I'm
Puzzles
totally with
are
you,
actually
Reeves.
pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the goofy atmosphere of that, and so it's like I kind of miss. I mean, I was happy for Walking Dead and what it did, but I was kind of sad in the sense that they just kind of followed that formula after that, and they didn't go back to some of these other games that they did
Even
and did
I
well.
like their Back to the Future games. Like they were weird. Like there was, I forget if it's episode 3, but at some point in the Back to the Future run, it becomes clear that like Doc Brown like hooked up with some lady when he was in high school, and it resulted in him just like having a crazy amount of confidence. And then he basically takes over Hill Valley and runs it like it's 1984, and he's like this crazy Orwellian figures. Like they did some fun stuff with Back to the Future lore in that game.
Yeah, that was a fun game too.
And Jurassic Park.
Oh man, that has some great
Favorite.
moments.
There were
though.
dinosaurs.
So silly.
I still feel so bad I have never finished that
Oh,
game.
you have
I
to.
played one episode, and now seems like a good time to go through and just blast
You
it.
have to.
Should we do for Extra Life or something?
That would be like 10 hours of
I don't
Extra
think it's that
Life.
long. I don't think it's 10 hours.
What's like 5 episodes? Every episode's
Yeah.
probably 2 hours, right?
Really?
It's probably like 8 to 10 hours.
That would be fun just to make it a recurring thing throughout Extra Life.
Yeah.
though.
Super replay.
Yeah.
Super replay, yeah, or even Game Club. Try to do something with it.
Jurassic Park.
It sucks though with Telltale going down to talk about like one of their worst games and just like
Can you-
bash the hell out of it. But
Can you even find it? That's the thing too.
yeah, I don't know, man. Telltale, we'll miss you.
Yeah. Thanks
Good
for the
studio
memories.
gone down.
Great stories. Great experiences.
Yeah, thanks for all the hard work from the developers out there, and I hope they all land on their feet somewhere. I'm sure they will. It's a
Talented
hope so.
people.
yeah,
over
good looking resume. If you've shipped a Batman game, Guardians of the Galaxy game,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
good.
I think you're good.
Okay, I think you're good. Yeah, tough go.
Come
hey,
see me if you're not good.
Ben Reeves, Reiner, do you guys want to clap out?
Yeah.
Here we go. The show goes on. That is the sound of Suriel Vasquez
Hello.
flying in all the way from Japan, right, Suriel?
Yep, my 13 hours just to be on this podcast.
Okay, Kim, you were at the Tokyo Game Show. You were in Tokyo. Suriel, you were sitting at home thinking about Japan, but you
Yeah.
are the foremost expert on all things Japan and Japanese gaming, so that's why you're here, man.
Okay.
Kim, wonderful trip to Tokyo, I'd imagine.
It always is.
Yeah. What was the highlight this time? Of the trip, not even gaming-wise. but...
I went to the Near Orchestra concert, and
Oh.
that was amazing to hear live. And I actually, usually when they do like rearrangements on, different popular soundtracks that I like in games, I'm not crazy about them.
Okay.
But this orchestra actually is like, in songs that I never thought that I could like another version of, like Amusement Park from Near Automata, like that is it.
So they had like a full
Like
chorus on stage.
They had
too?
a full chorus,
Okay.
like full choir, okay,
Yeah.
and then a full orchestra, obviously, but and then they had like their voice actresses come out and read parts of the game, like to put a story together, and then the singers for their biggest songs came out. So like Weight of the World, that singer, and the
Okay.
one who did the main one for the first game. So that was really fun.
Did they do any of like the hacking music? So like the weird 8-bit versions of the classic songs from that game?
Not the 8-bit versions. but-
Okay. There was no like cool transition or anything, but that sounds
There's
great.
some cool stuff. And then I went to the Pokemon Cafe.
Okay. Is that neat?
You know what? I just
Yeah.
wanted to plug it because it's the best foods, hands down. I've had at a themed restaurant before, and
Really?
I've been to so many of them by now that actually is like this. Nintendo really put a lot of effort into this. It's great. So.
And there's like stuff on the site for both those, right?
Yes.
Like your detailed write-up and all that stuff. Okay, what about the show itself? What was the most exciting game that you saw?
Oh boy, Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah.
Of course, like that was awesome because Dante has a motorcycle weapon now.
That was like his main weapon that they showed off, right? Like
Yeah,
he's riding
and
a motorcycle.
I got addicted to it, and so the developers, as they were watching me do the demo, they're like, "Oh, you can switch weapons." I'm like, "Nope, I don't want to." I was doing donuts, and then I was like revving up into the enemies' heads. Like it was just
What
so much
is he
fun.
picking it up? What
There's
does this look
two
like?
versions of it, so he can either slice it in half and use it on both arms and just like. Or he
Just
can
use a
frickin'
sword.
ride it and go into people, and like it's almost like a chainsaw, like slashing their heads if you rev it up at the right time.
Okay, sure.
I liked it.
Surreal, you into that stuff too?
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously this was the case in 4, but like I like that they're further differentiating Dante and Nero in terms of like Nero has the arm and he can sort of pull enemies towards him, and Dante just has the different styles basically.
And Nero has a skateboard, so it's very Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
That seems okay. Also, yeah, Nero, did I see this right? That he has the Buster Cannon from Mega Man?
it's one of the,
Yeah.
like the pre-order bonus, or the deluxe
Okay.
edition. It's a different arm basically, but yeah, he basically now has a bunch of different arms he can use.
And I think on the 8-4 Play podcast, they were talking about it, and they're talking about like the different arms he can have, and it seems like, I guess like one of them's like a vibrator or something.
I
It seems a little bit stupid at times over there with Devil
you
May
know,
Cry.
But
that's cool. They also revealed
Yeah.
V, right? Which is a new
yeah,
character.
yeah, V, who they're not saying much about, but all they'll tease is like that V will fight differently, obviously, than Dante or Nero, and he only has a cane in a book. So figure out what he's going to do with that.
Sorcerer character.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Has DMC ever done anything like that?
I'm not sure because I didn't play the special edition of 4, which I think you can play as Lady and Trish, and I think Virgil. So I wasn't sure, but like from what I've played, I don't think they've ever done sort of like a sorcerer like character.
Yeah.
So I imagine maybe he summons things, he throws,
Yeah, that's what
fire.
I'm
Maybe he's like
thinking.
more of a ranged character, which would be
That'd be
interesting for
cool.
that series.
Yeah, for sure. So is that like the biggest game at the show, or what do you think had like the biggest audience, or like got the most buzz?
Most buzz, honestly, yeah, it probably was Devil May Cry 5,
Oh, wow.
honestly. Kingdom Hearts had buzz, but that Kingdom Hearts demo was
And
like
Woody.
the same one. Oh, God. Was the same one that they had at E3, but they had stage shows, which, like, obviously they released a longer trailer. Obviously, there's that footage of you fighting Aqua, which I just can't handle. So
Do you think that's too much of a spoiler? Was that because people were saying like maybe I don't know if they should have shown this?
I mean, they must not think it is to show it, or I think they're trying to like make people think one way about what's going to happen, and then it's not going to be what you expect.
Just
I'm
pretending
like,
to be a bad guy.
I can't raise a hand to her, so this is going to be very, very
You're just
difficult.
gonna stop
for
the
me.
game, throw it away.
Yeah, I think.
But-
I don't know. We were talking about it internally, but it just seems like the Kingdom Hearts 3 campaign. Can you imagine being on that marketing team and like trying to stretch that out? Like, I don't know if they have enough of that game that they haven't shown where they can pull off a twist like that of leading people in a direction this late and then twisting it around. It's like, I feel like they're firing everything they have at this point.
I
right?
don't know. We still have only had like one playable version and seen just certain clips of worlds. The only world we've actually really played was Toy Story, and not even to completion. And we also had Olympus that
Right.
we were like
The
running
Hercules
up
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm hoping I'm surprised. The box art obviously got released, and everybody has opinions about that.
Sure.
What if the big twist is that there's a Marvel world?
Well, there is Big Hero 6, baby.
Well,
No, but not
They
mine.
would have
Well,
announced
yeah.
that one by now, I would think.
No,
They wouldn't
yeah, I
even
don't think
save
so.
that for a surprise. But the other thing that surprised me was how popular, and I knew this, but going to the show, Persona, because they had Persona Q2 there.
Oh, okay.
And even on the press days, like people lined up for 2 hours for that game in particular. So
Help me out. Is that like a dungeon crawly thing?
it's by the team that does Etrian Odyssey, so it's
That's
in
right.
that vein. I love the original Persona Q. I think I gave that game like a 9 because the theme's really cool. It's old school dungeon crawler, but
Yeah.
has the charm of Persona with the characters and themes of each dungeon.
Okay.
So I was surprised by that. Yeah, I was looking around. This was kind of an interesting year, as I feel like there wasn't. I feel like there are Japanese games in development. There are just not a lot of them that are being shown front and center right now because they're still working through them. Like Vanillaware's game was absent.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But I actually played. I stopped by Level 5's booth, and some of the most fun I had was Inazuma 11, the
This is
soccer game.
Soccer RPG.
On
Yes.
Switch, and it is just it's so delightful to play.
Is it
It's
fun?
it's really fun. I was like totally digging it. And I think it works better being on like a platform like Switch than, DS or Vice. And I'm going to say the same thing. I played Yokai Watch 4, which I know we didn't get 3, but 4 is on the Switch.
Okay.
And that looked amazing, like just in the, the vein that we know Level 5 can do with their shell shaded graphics. And it was actually like really fun.
I'm excited. And like, it hasn't done gangbusters over here, the Yokai Watch stuff. Like no one really paid attention to 2 even, but if they release 4 on the Switch,
that's what I'm thinking.
I'll play that.
I have a feeling it'll come over. And like I said, I liked what I played of it. So that was one of my surprise stops because I didn't know what they were going to have and basically just kind of went there. And then here's the last thing I'm going to talk about. The Kill la Kill fighting game is really fun, and that's by Arc System Works that does like the Blaze Blue Guilty Gear series.
It's supposedly a different team. It's like not like the one that worked on Dragon Ball from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played it at Evo, and it's like I'm surprised at how like it looks a little weird because it's sort of that Guilty Gear sort of very like highly detailed 2D art style, but it's on a 3D plane, and they're not like 3D models the way you'd expect. So it kind of shifts from like basically like one sprite to another. If that makes sense.
No.
In the way that like imagine Sonic sort of I don't know why I went to Sonic, but like imagine that Sonic 3D game that was sort of canceled where he's sort of moving around on a 3D plane, but he's sort of like a 2D sprite. It's sort of like a highly detailed version of that.
Okay.
And so they when the perspective shifts, you're sort of switching from one sprite to another, and it looks a little weird, but like from what I played of it, it's pretty simple, but I had fun with it.
Yeah, it's
like,
a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's really cool. I don't know if they've showed it off. Like I don't know if they iterated on it, but there's this really cool sort of system where when you like you can sort of throw out a super the way sort of Soul Calibur has, where it has that rock paper scissors mechanic. But the difference is that you can't tie here. So if you both press the same button, it goes at it again. It kind of raises the stakes of how much damage those attacks will do.
Yeah.
So you basically go until someone. I think either until you do that 3 times or until someone wins, and sort of like every time you clash, there's like higher and higher stakes.
What's it called again?
Kill. I think it's just Kill la Kill, the fighting game or something.
Well,
Kill la
it's
Kill.
like Kill la Kill. I looked this up because I was like, what's the official name? And it's like Kill la Kill IF.
IF. Okay.
Yeah.
Interactive
Whatever.
fiction. All right.
I don't know, but I will say this, Surreal, and I actually was going to bring this up to you when I got back, but you were out of the office because you hurt your back.
Mm-hmm.
This is the year, like this year in particular, TGS was all full of fighting games.
Yeah.
It was pretty, like, because I had Soul Calibur, I had Jump Force, I had Kill la Kill, I saw Dead or Alive 6. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that so many different ones were kind of like all coming
crazy.
out.
It's been interesting watching sort of the fighting game community grow out of Capcom's shell in a way, just because I think over the years it feels like Street Fighter V is not sort of the centerpiece the way Street Fighter 4 was, and I think in the wake of that, I feel like Bandai Namco might be sort of like the one to overtake them because they have Soul Calibur, they have a Dragon Ball, and within that like Arc System Works, which I don't think is working with Bandai to publish the Kill la Kill game, but there's Jump Force. Like I feel like Bandai has sort of taken that mantle, and they also have Tekken. So like
It's crazy. Yeah, you're totally right.
So like it's interesting to see all these sort of like contenders come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Even though Street Fighter V is still probably the most popular one, it doesn't feel like that way in sort of like the cultural landscape. So I feel like there's a lot of room for other people to sort of rise up in that way.
Oh, they're also making Smash.
Yeah. So Bandai
gonna be
Namco is like the fighting game
crazy.
publisher now.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it till I was at the show, and I was like, God, there's so many coming out.
That's wild. Okay, you're missing the biggest thing.
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding.
I know. I was saving it to the end.
Okay,
for you,
good.
Because
What-
I knew you were gonna want to gush, and I wanted to get all the other
I'm
stuff.
very
out.
excited.
Real quick,
this. Yes.
before TGS, they announced the Yakuza team announced their new Project Judge,
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
which is sort of like a Yakuza game mixed with Phoenix Wright elements, where you're sort of a detective, but you're also doing kickflips on a skateboard, kicking a guy in the face. Like it has that extreme Yakuza vibe, but
Yeah.
also you're not a criminal. You're investigating a crime, basically.
Do you think, because it takes place, I don't know in which Japanese city, I don't know if you guys remember. But it looks so Yakuza. I'm wondering
No, it
how
does.
many
It
assets
plays,
they're like reusing.
Like,
Yeah.
I saw it at the show. It plays like a
Yeah.
Yakuza.
Okay.
Like,
It's also
it's
fine.
very similar, and I don't care.
It's also interesting
fine.
because they hired this who apparently is like this mega popular actor. Sort of someone was saying he's like the Brad Pitt of Japan or something to play the main character, which is kind of cool. Because like in Yakuza 6 they had Beat Takeshi, who's like a very famous Japanese actor. So I'm surprised at the pedigree of actors that they can get for these roles. and that's like super cool. Like I like that they're able to sort of make these games feel like they have like a much larger budget than they probably do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. Project Judge, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called? That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, Death Stranding. What was it like? Did it have like a presence on the show floor?
At the Sony booth, like there is a huge Norman Reedus statue. That was about it.
Classic.
And then, like I said, I was actually on a plane back to Tokyo when they announced all that. Back to Tokyo. Sorry, I wish I was going back to Tokyo. Back home when they announced all that stuff. And
When
I
like
was
Kojima had the panel and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, Troy Baker's now in this.
So this is the announcement, right? Troy Baker is
Yeah.
going to be in the game. He plays like this skull-looking villain.
Yeah.
Another skull
Yeah.
villain for Kojima. Very novel ground.
Someone's a big giant dog with a gold mask or something.
It's a super cool-looking
Yeah.
weirdo monster. Like opens its face and it's got like a butthole mouth and
Yep.
stuff. It's everything you want from a
butthole
cool
mouth.
Yeah.
Kojima monster. But pretty short trailer overall. It's like
Yeah.
a minute long. or
Yeah, it's the
something.
shortest trailer maybe Kojima's ever made. in a long time.
Yeah.
It was weird because, like, I mentioned this to you earlier, Hanson. It just felt like Troy Baker was sort of just implanted into that game. Like, for whatever reason, it just feels like he's out of place. Like, his voice acting is just like, I'm Troy Baker doing my voice.
Well, it sounds more than that. It sounds like him just doing his revolver ocelot, which I thought was all over the place in 5. Everybody thinks that I'm insane, but it sounds like such a similar vibe
Yeah.
to his ocelot.
It
from
feels
5.
like he's not reaching, like, in a way that he might.
Don't. It's a minute-long trailer. Don't judge Troy
Well,
Baker.
true, but like,
sir.
it didn't feel like he was like. You would think that character would have a raspier voice or something. That's just my sort of thing, but like, it also felt like here's just the straight audio of him recording. It didn't feel like he was in the place he was in.
Sir, I will not have you besmirch Death Stranding's good name to saying their audio quality production
All right.
is too low.
Should we make a bet when we think that game is going to come out?
I think it's going to be cross-gen 2020.
Yeah,
God, I was going to do 2020.
I actually have a copy right here. No!
I
Yeah,
just
2020 seems pretty
we
likely.
still have not seen that much, and I'm always just like, what the heck is this game?
It's
Very
cranking on it.
Kojima-like.
Despite the number of trailers they've shown, and one of them even had gameplay, I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing in that game.
Good.
Besides, like maybe delivering things all the time.
Babies.
But that seems to clash with the idea of like they're summoning demon dogs and there's all this death going on. It's like, all right, guys, I'll see you later. I got another delivery I have
You
to
have to
make.
out-deliver this demon dog.
Every
Yeah.
time I watch it, just like my mind, I'm just like, what is going on here?
That's not what he's going for either, which is the
That's-
problem. No. But also like a
He's
weird
totally
announcement.
being serious.
Yeah. At that panel, I guess Kojima, he announced that there's another character in the game, like the leader of the company that your main character, Mr. Norman Reedus, works for or whatever. And apparently in Japan, he's going to be voiced by the voice actor that played Solid Snake. And so now it's this huge setup. Like if he doesn't cast David Hayter in this role, lights out for Hayter here. And I don't think that he will. Seems
No,
like there's
I
enough
don't-
ill
Yeah, I
will
think
there where it's not
there's-
going to
yeah.
happen.
I doubt it.
Yeah, he'll just put Troy Baker in there again, doing a David Hayter impersonation and call it good.
Yeah, it's also weird how many of the announcements regarding Death Stranding are like, we've gotten this celebrity involved.
Right,
Well, that's
right.
so Kojima too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he also announced that, like, I'm technically playing the game at this point. Like, all the systems have come together. Not saying it's like alpha or anything close to that, but he had some weird way of phrasing it, saying it's not like disparate parts anymore. I'm technically doing reviews with the controller in my hand now. But then he also mentioned that they're still doing a lot of VO recording for like the main lines. So seems like it's not quite there yet, but maybe a little bit more done than some people would expect. Maybe.
It's gonna be 2020 or later.
Yep, I think you're
That's
right.
all I'm saying.
All right. Hey, TGS. Good job, Japan. Doing it.
Yeah,
Yep.
still having those shows.
Very exciting. Do you guys want to move on to emails?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have good emails. Nay, great emails that people sent in the podcast at GameInformer.com. They sent in thoughts, questions, words of wisdom, anything under the sun that's good and that makes the show more good. Right, Surreal?
Some would say better.
Some would say better. Kim's still here.
Hello.
Cyril Vasquez is still here.
Hello.
And joining the fray, we have Kyle Hilliard.
Thank you for having me.
Kyle, why do you like doing emails?
Because I like answering people's questions. It's fun. I get to talk about things that aren't necessarily related to video games.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I went back and listened to that clip from a podcast a while ago where you said you were being sarcastic about Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
I did as well. Yeah.
You were not sarcastic.
I did not sound sarcastic at all.
Do you realize what you sound like when you speak?
Yeah, I could have done a better
Yes.
job at being sarcastic.
you
Yeah,
being
which is
sarcastic
something
right
that no one's ever critiqued you with.
I know, but it was. I went back and listened to that, and I was like, oh, yeah, I really do sound sincere. It sounds like I really am concerned about Laura's
Yeah,
father.
it was
I do
stuff-
not care about that man at all.
And there was just a big debate in the office about whether or not people should be enjoying Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Kyle seems like you're in the nay camp, and Leo says it's the second coming of Christ.
Leo likes it more than I do. I'm enjoying the gameplay, but I just have no clue what's going on ever about in terms of the story and why I'm where I'm supposed to be. And it just seems like, yeah, we can get into it, but
And Leo says, just pay attention, you idiot.
Leo says this. Why do I care about the story? Focus
Yeah,
on the
I
I
fun
think you guys
stuff.
both have the same reactions. It's just like it matters differently to you that the story is bad.
I just think it should get more credit for how fun it is.
The stealth and shooting.
Yeah, but still.
Moving
Leo.
through the world is fun, and the shooting is good, and the stealth is cool, and I'm gonna finish it. Like I'm enjoying the gameplay of it, but the
Yeah.
context for why I'm doing what I'm doing has left like
the building.
hours.
Right, that's
ago.
what I'm saying. You guys fundamentally agree about this game. It's just the reactions are very different to the
Yes.
exact same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kim, any new reflections on Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
No, I feel like I said what needed to be said, and
All right, 7.5.
somebody actually messaged me and was like, "You were right. That ending is bananas." So I was
Wow.
happy that someone remembered.
All right.
what I
I'm
said.
excited to get to that. That's my main motivation.
Yeah, I want to play that. The Hey Kim, no spoilers here.
Oh boy.
But Dragon Quest XI, super quick. Is it fair to say that that game is divided into like 2 acts? Because I'm pretty deep in what I would consider the second act, like 40-ish hours in.
Oh gosh.
Is there like another big chunk?
I think there's like 4 acts, honestly.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
You're like halfway through the game, man. Like you're gonna hit maybe around the 60-ish hour mark, that first ending, and then you have to, if you want
I'm
to,
fine with hitting an ending. If I can see
yeah,
credits
you've got
roll.
at least 20 hours.
Okay, but it's all like
more.
okay.
Are you enjoying yourself?
I am. I really like it
Because
a
no
lot.
one's making
I
you do this.
I know.
Which
I
the
like
same
it.
can be said about me in Tomb Raider.
I like it. I just want it to be like 50 hours long. That's like good.
Yeah.
Good RPG, and
Well,
this
it's like
is.
double that if you want to do everything.
Don't know if I'm going to do anything. Anyways, podcast@gameformer.com. A lot of great emails, including Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas. Hero of the people. He says, hey, on the last podcast, you talked about making a graph showing the review scores of different sports games. I had a free hour last night, so I did exactly that. I took 5 of the biggest annual sports games, Madden, NBA 2K, FIFA, The Show, and NHL, and put in review scores for each series. For games that came out for multiple systems, I tried to use the next-gen review. Now for some data.
Ooh.
Ronnie, he says, the average score of each series ranked from lowest to highest. Somebody want
let's
to
do
take a guess as to which is the highest average score for which series?
Okay.
NBA 2K.
Well, hold on. The highest score, like
Highest.
just the number,
Yeah, like
right?
scored the best.
Overall,
right?
best score. Individual.
Which series has averaged the highest score?
Which series?
Yes.
Okay, I'm with
sorry.
Kim.
NBA 2K.
NBA
yeah.
2K.
2K.
NBA 2K at an 8.85. Next
Wow.
up is Madden with an average 8.5. This is since I looked up his math here. Since '99, he's tracking all
cool.
this stuff, right? MLB The Show 8.38, FIFA 8.382, NHL 8.175.
I would have predicted NHL would have been at the bottom.
Isn't that crazy? They're all
Wait,
in the 8s?
is live not on there? NBA
It's
Live?
not, no, he just used these
Because
5.
that would have been the lowest.
We
right?
don't talk about NBA
Yeah,
Live.
don't. How dare you?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
On this podcast?
so sorry.
With God as
Edit
your
it.
witness?
Edit it out. Edit it out.
How dare
Get
you?
out of here live!
grab that pen and write down the timestamp.
I'm freaking out! The lowest score is 5.5 for I will give somebody everything in my wallet if they can guess what game this is. Lowest score, 5.5.
Okay. So we have to guess franchise and year.
Yes.
Madden 06.
Interesting. No.
The low score of those series?
Yes.
NHL 2004.
No.
It's on you, Kim. You got to save us.
It's
The only person who
know.
would actually have
I
knowledge
know,
of
and I'm
this.
just like, I don't remember what entry was really bad.
5, 4.
I could
3.
get used to that.
Correct answer, NHL 15. NHL 15, 5.5.
Oh,
Highest,
I should know that.
I know.
approved that
I was
review.
waiting for you. I know.
Oh my gosh.
Highest score is Madden 2001/2002, 9.75. Good God.
Wow.
Anyways, it's a fun graph.
That's cool.
In the video version, you can see it. I'll pop it on the screen there. Thank you so much for doing the math there, Lawrence. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're not good at math, so.
Yeah. Kim, do you want to read this email? It's just so I
God.
can write down a timestamp, but you're on top of it.
Based on your time. Wait, what?
Here we go. Here we go.
Hello, Game Informer crew.
that's
Red Dead Redemption 2 is my most anticipated game this year. However, I started to get a little concerned after going through all the hands-on responses recently released by the games media. Everyone is very high on the gameplay, but what has me concerned are the myriad of resources and relationships that you will now have to manage. Based on the coverage I have seen, there are now systems for layering your choices, cleaning your guns, eating regularly, bathing, shaving, and maintaining a good relationship with your horse, among others. You even have to watch your weight now. That's horrible. By
In
the way.
games, whew,
I was in San Andreas.
I know.
As someone who will be welcoming a newborn into my family roughly a month after launch,
See ya.
the idea of a game where I need to spend 20 to 30 minutes on maintaining my character before I head off on a mission is off-putting. Based on your time with the game, how intrusive are these mechanics, and how much are you at a detriment if you ignore them for a while in order to get to the next beat in the story?
Beautiful.
So
Game.
just to cut comments
Hang on,
off,
hang on.
it's
What-
myriad. Just, I know you guys are going to comment on that. So
it's a mess.
I know,
it's a mess.
we know. All
Also,
right, it
to
happens.
cut comments off, it's Jonathan R. from Falls Church, Virginia. To get that in there. I asked Jeff Cork about this real quick. He said it's not a big deal, but it's not bad.
Okay.
He said it's like the equivalent of eating in San Andreas, where it's like every couple hours you do something super quick,
Okay.
if you want to.
So, all right, and he said he's having a newborn a month after it releases.
That sounds right.
Okay. One thing that's no one tells you is that about people tell you lots of things about having kids,
Yeah.
and they're totally right. But one thing a lot of people don't tell you is that infants are very boring, and they just sit there. So it's
Right.
actually not a bad time to play some mature rated games.
Wow.
Well,
really.
he better hope that he has a good baby.
That's a good point. You
'Cause,
gotta make sure. Yes, have a good, well behaved
Yeah.
infant. That's a
Right.
really
Yeah.
good tip.
No matter what. And if you don't, you can trade him back for the first 2 months, I think
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
most
whatever
don't
works.
take
Yeah.
advantage
Don't
of
get
that,
a
but-
screamer.
Right.
Yeah.
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 If your baby screams or cries once, bring that sucker back.
This baby's defective.
They're
I
not
don't know.
supposed to do that.
Yeah. Bring it back to your wife. Anyways, yeah. I don't think
I'm
it'd
really
be-
sorry to do this. Could you just swap this one out? It's not doing
Gotta
it for
find
me.
out what happens to Morgan. It's important.
Are you guys into those sim aspects of Red Dead 2? Like the idea of cleaning your weapons and all that stuff, like that maintenance level?
No, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it's integrated to the game. Like if it is kind of natural and maybe it won't be distracting or boring or annoying, but
Yeah.
but on paper like that isn't particularly exciting.
Yeah,
to me.
that's like to me it feels like a net minus in terms of like
Yeah.
having to do all this maintenance. But from what I've heard from Cork, who's really I think the only one who's played the game here.
Yeah.
It feels like the camp stuff was sort of my big concern of how much you're going to have to sort of micromanage it. And from what he told me, it's more or less like you can ignore it if you want. It's just a nice bonus if you
Okay.
have that well maintained. And I'm hoping that's the case for a lot of this stuff. It's just a matter of like if there's all these little aspects you have to maintain and they're all kind of like marginal, are they going to add up to something where, you spend X% of the game sort of just like with upkeep?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it looks like it might be relatively minor.
And Dead Action Jones writes in just talking about like, the classic question of, hey, in Red Dead 1, how come they never mention this Arthur Morgan guy? Odds Arthur Morgan dies a horrific death at the end of Red Dead 2. And actually he points out that it's interesting. He points out that maybe it's going to be structured like Red Dead 1, where then you play as John at the very end of Red Dead 2.
Oh.
What are the odds?
Death pretty high.
We're talking 95?
Yeah. Playing as John though, I don't think they would repeat that trick twice.
I don't know. They might.
Yeah, they've gone back to Liberty City how many times now? I mean, Rockstar loves repeating some tricks.
Yeah, but like story beats though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know everybody's looking forward to him in this one, so
I think you did
give
make
the fans what they want.
Yeah, yeah, there's that. But I was trying to think in GTA 4 and 5, both of those games ended with choices about who lives and who dies, right? Between characters that you come to know the course of the entire game.
Sure.
So maybe they do repeat themselves when it comes to narrative little
Maybe.
tricks like that.
What are the odds there's a scene at the end of Red Dead 2 where it's like a burial scene?
Spoilers for Red Dead 1, by the way.
It's implied. Sorry, everybody. I think
Death is
everybody's
implied in the
satisfied.
title, dude.
yeah, it's in there.
But what are the odds there's like a burial scene at the end of Red Dead 2 and then they all like look at each other and they're like, we'll never speak of him. Arthur Morgan's name will be stripped from the records forever. Something like that.
We'll never relive this undead nightmare. Part 2.
Part 2. Joe from Flemington, Pennsylvania says, hello, crew. Has there ever been a game series that you never particularly liked, but then an entry came out and you loved it? For me, it's Infamous. I didn't like the first two. I thought they controlled poorly and the stories were never that interesting. However, I loved Second Son when it came out. I still think it's one of the best action games ever made. Good God. Do you guys know what he's talking about? Is there anything that fits for you guys for a series you never liked and then one just blew you away?
Yeah, Monster Hunter World. I could
yeah.
never get into that series. And everyone was like, no, you'd love it. And I think it was 2. I didn't like playing on a handheld and it cramped my hands. But playing this one, I've gone over 100 hours in that game, probably close like now to 150. And I did not expect to like it as much as I do. And it's probably one of my top games that I've played this year.
What's your prediction? Where's it going to land?
On the personal top 10?
Yeah.
Or?
I don't know because there's some games that have not come out yet that are pretty big deals.
Red Dead's going to be the first 4 slots, I think. I think I haven't tallied up my list or really thought about it too much at all, but I feel confident Monster Hunter is going to be number 10. No matter what, number 10 is going to be Monster Hunter World.
Just borderline.
Yeah, mine
Yeah.
will be in the top 5. It'll be in there.
Okay. Kyle, what do you think? Is there?
So I dabbled with a bunch of like Castlevanias, like pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevanias.
The freaks.
I really didn't like them.
Yeah.
And then I tried Harmony of Dissonance on the Game Boy Advance, and it didn't do anything for me. And then I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and I was like, I'm in bed right after surgery. I'm gonna just focus on a game and get through it.
I'm going to
And it
ignore
was-
my baby,
This was like when I was in college.
your first baby.
And I played Symphony of the Night, and it took me like a long time to really get into it. But once I crossed that line, I like went back and played all those Castlevanias I missed, and I like really fell in love with the series from that point moving forward.
Yeah.
So Symphony of the Night, kind of in a weird way, like I tried a bunch and it didn't do anything for me until I gave Symphony of the Night a real shot, and then I fell in love with all those games.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's boring, but like God of War, I would say I actively dislike the God of War series, and now there's no universe where it's not my number 1 game of the year.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Just impossible.
Over Red Dead?
Well, we'll see.
Not having touched it once, yes, I would say
Oh
it's
my
impossible.
gosh.
No, Red Dead I'm sure is going to blow me away, but I'd still be shocked.
I think for me it was probably Uncharted. I think 4 is probably the one where I was like, this is pretty good. And like the rest of them were fine to good for me. But I think 4 was like the one where I was like, okay, this is, I can understand why people would like Uncharted.
And there's still definitely that crowd out there that's like, it's no Uncharted 2, but playing those back to back, I mean, Uncharted 4 is just so much better, right, everybody? Nostalgia, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, this
come
is
on.
a safe space for you, Hanson.
Okay, thank you. It's just us, right? Dan Friend from Greenwood, Indiana says, what video games do you regret putting long hours into or beating? Mine would have to be Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Superman Returns on the 360. Stop playing bad superhero
man.
games, Dan.
I didn't even consider licensed games because I put
Yeah,
a lot
basically every licensed game,
Yeah,
right?
there's that Thor game on 360 that I played and beat.
Yeah.
I was actually, this one might be controversial for this table, but I don't look fondly back on my time with Ni no Kuni 2.
Really?
I played it through and beat it, and I was like, I don't know if I really got anything from that. I didn't love it. It was just like, and there were moments where I was like, why am I still playing this?
That's shocking.
I saw it to the end, and I don't think it'll even be in my top 10. We'll see. Speaking of top 10.
Well, with that kind of attitude, I'd be surprised if it was in your top 10.
Yeah.
That's shocking,
That's,
man. I
that's
love
kind
that
of a
game.
weird one, but
Yeah.
And every licensed game, obviously.
Every licensed game, including
except for Spider-Man 2.
I mean, this year I so regret playing through that story mode in Dragon Ball Fighters. That's just the biggest waste of time. It's worth like playing the beginning of it just to see like that dynamic, and I think the writing's kind of fun. They make fun of Yamcha enough in there and stuff, but like doing the last 2 big campaign chunks of that, it is so stupid.
Yeah, it's weird how they ramp up the difficulty in like the last 2 just to say they have a curve, but it's super arbitrary, and it's like the only time I had to start thinking at all about that story mode.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
So it's kind of a bummer. Yeah.
God, sucks.
I feel like Arkham Knight is probably mine.
What?
I spent. I should have just barrel through the story mode.
Yeah.
Like I regret most of the time I spent doing side stuff in that game.
Really?
All right. Yeah, all side stuff is regrettable. I
Do
think.
you hate Riddler trophies too?
I like them in
hates Riddler.
Asylum.
No,
I feel
they're
like
great.
they just went overboard in City and Night. That's just me.
I love Riddler trophies.
It's okay, guys. We can have different opinions. It's
No, we need to be on the same page.
all right. Sorry.
Voy from Shakopee, Minnesota says, "Hello, GI crew. A few months back, Nintendo started selling a Switch without a dock in Japan, presumably for families that primarily play undocked. With the release of Nintendo Online, with the addition of online saving, could you see them releasing a cheaper Switch with no screen that's just always hooked up to a TV? Keep in mind, I'm not asking if you think this is a good idea or even if it's something you or customers would want. Question is Nintendo, and would they ever do it?"
I don't see how you do that though. Like
No.
it's
No way.
That's insane.
The main selling point of that system is how portable it is. Like that is way over, making it just a home console.
I agree, but do you remember that Nintendo's the company that made the 2DS and the 2DS XL?
Yeah, but that didn't eliminate-
100% unpredictable at all times.
but then you have to call it something else other than the Switch.
Indeed,
Like-
they would,
like
and
the
they would
static.
confuse everybody.
Yeah, the
You know,
stasis.
I was about to argue with you with the 2DS and say that doesn't eliminate the main selling point
Yeah.
of that system.
Yes, it
Because
did.
it still has two screens. But you're right. It did remove the stereo. But that also wasn't a popular thing. People didn't. The stereoscopic element of 3DS ended up being like
Right.
a secondary thing where being able to play the Switch remotely, I think, is more important than even being able to play it at home.
What percentage of people do you think, for total hours of Switch played, what's the breakdown for docked versus undocked, do you think?
70-30.
70,
70% undocked, 30% docked.
I might say 70 docked.
Really?
I bet more people play it just sitting in front of the couch than you think on their TV.
I'd say it's probably split 50-50, honestly.
Okay.
Wait, are we? I'm saying that the portable is higher.
I know.
So
I'm saying the opposite.
okay. I was just making sure because you said sitting on the couch. I thought you meant like sitting on the couch playing it undocked.
No, sitting on the couch in front of the TV, I think.
Playing it docked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Surreal, what's your scientific number?
I would say probably 60-40 portable.
Okay. Wow. All
Even,
right.
even though I like 95% of my time with the Switch is spent docked.
See? I think
mine
there's-
docked too.
Okay,
You're
that's
docked?
what I was going to ask
Yeah.
on the table because mine's 95% not docked.
Right.
I play portable more.
You have
Right.
a child though that plays
That's
into
true.
it.
You're taking care of yourself.
Plays into everything.
To Voi's question here, the odds I think of Nintendo doing that are 35%. Not impossible.
I'd say like
20%.
10.
Like I just don't know. Like I guess they could cut the corner of a screen, right? But like I don't know that they go through the effort of making an R&D. Like I don't even know how that looks. And yeah,
Look,
I don't
I
know.
get it. It's a bad idea, but it's possible. Joe from Lakeville, very simple question. What Pokemon are you?
What Pokemon?
Kyle, what Pokemon are you?
Man, I don't know. That's a hard question. There's the temptation is to be like, I'm Snorlax. I'm the lazy one. Right? But I
don't get between me and my bed.
I walk around at home a lot.
Uh-huh.
I don't really sit around very much.
You don't sleep 20
Which
hours a day.
Pokemon walks a lot and is closest to a normal human? Maybe Mr. Mime? Is that
Yeah, you actually look a suspicious amount like Mr. Mime now that I think about it.
Thank you.
This is creepy. My middle name's Meryl, so I'll go with
I want
Meryl.
everyone else's answers. Don't single me out. Which Pokemon are you guys? Kim,
I'm
nervously looking at her hair.
I'm trying not to call myself a chunker here because that's not what I'm doing. But I look like Jigglypuff.
Do you think so?
You think so?
Jigglypuff.
Wigglytuff, I might make an exception for.
Yeah,
but
you can.
I don't know,
upgrade,
like
Kim.
a beautiful woman with flowing locks like your own. I mean, it's kind of Jinx-esque, I guess, like early versions of
No,
Jinx.
like recent
You're not problematic though.
No,
Kim,
I
that's
think
fine.
like out of the gate Jinx. You look spot on.
Can I just be Magneton?
Yep, you got it. Mr. H writes in and
Hanson,
says,
who are you?
"Oh, I said Meryl.
Oh, you
that's
did
my
say
name."
Meryl.
Oh.
Mr. Hardy of Seattle writes, "Just finished both Resident Evil Revelations games. Strange thing to do in 2018, but
Hey, those are good.
I played 2 like a couple months ago.
what the hell's everyone doing?"
That
on
game
the
is
Switch.
good. I
Yeah,
like that game.
look, they're great.
When they announced it, I said, I'm going to play Revelations 2. And Hanson, you said, no, you're not. And I did, just to spite you.
Spite you.
on
Prove
Switch.
me
The
wrong.
Spite playthrough.
Oh,
on
by
my-
the way, speaking of
those are my
games I
favorites.
regret playing, Resident Evil Revelations 2.
Really?
on Switch.
Oh, man.
No, it was fine. It was fine. It was fine.
It's fine. I enjoyed both, but noticed an unfortunate theme in both Revelations games. Towards the end of Resident Evil Revelations, a side character was shot and urgently needed a medical kit. Playing as the lethal refrigerator with limbs, Chris Redfield, I was required to go all the way across the sinking ship to get it. The wicked twist? I passed 2 or 3 med kits along the way, which I couldn't pick up since my medical kit inventory was full. So I guess Chris just couldn't stand to part with one of his beloved first aid kits? In Revelations 2, a character is required to move what looked to be a huge crab pot-looking thing around to reach upper levels. However, avuncular Barry begs off because his bad back... So it's up to a little girl named Natalia to lug this metal device, clearly several times her weight, around while Barry happily trots ahead. I know video games have their own brand of logic, but it just seems that many, if not all, video game protagonists, alleged heroes, engage in a whole lot of behavior which would never fly in real life. Hey, son, I've seen you broken your arm. Let me walk over to the house to pick up a splint. Along the way, I'll search every room in the house just in case there are any ammunition lying around. Were these 2 games particularly terrible in this respect, or can you think of other examples of heroic protagonists acting, well, kind of dickish?
I mean, you can probably do it for most of them.
I think every video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every video game protagonist has to break the rules. Even like I was thinking of, the most focused video game story where it's like, I guess it never really shatters it, but even like Shadow of the Colossus, he shouldn't be focusing on those lizards for so long.
Yeah.
Like, that's even a dick move.
It's going to make me stronger if I kill
First
this
of all,
lizard.
torturing small animals. Second of all, like licking up their tails or whatever. And then third of all, it's like, you got stuff to do, man.
There's also the part where he's killing a bunch of colossi who really...
Oh,
had
yeah,
done
that
nothing
part,
to him.
too.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done that at all.
Thinking about this actually with because I'm playing Tomb Raider and then also Uncharted as well, is that there's so many points in all those games where like you show up somewhere and they're like, man, there's this mystery that we have not been able to solve for hundreds of years. And I live here and I'm trying to figure it out. There's some treasure here. And then like these like Nathan Drake or Laura just show up and they're like, they kind of just look around a little bit and they're like, all right, I got it. I figured it out. And
I'll figure out who killed JFK.
That's got to be so frustrating for those people
Yeah.
that have like made their lives trying to figure out the
I would
combination.
definitely want the version of where someone does that and then it's like, wait, I can't understand this. It's like, yeah, dude, we've been trying to figure it out for like 100 years. You're not going to be this, you're not special.
You're not going to suddenly figure this out.
Yeah.
My favorite is when you arrive somewhere and it's like you need like either a screwdriver, hammer, or doorknob, whatever, to get through. And it is magically right around if you just look around.
Video games are bullshit.
No,
Dumb.
Yeah,
This is all fantasy.
Cancel video games.
Boo.
I also like when I go off to the side on RPGs because I have to pick up every chest and they're like, come on, let's go. And like really like urgent times and you hear the like music starting to go because you're going to go into a big scene. And I'm like, nope, I got to go over here and get this chest really quick.
Hold on, let's bring the sound, bring the music down. Stop the swelling. I got to go explore for like 50.
Also, the number of times you basically can just walk around and run into people's houses uninvited in games.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Link is such a dick.
Yeah, he's a piece of work. Nate in Brandon, Missouri says, hello, Ben and Guru. Hope this email finds everyone well. So my wife has a young cousin who's on the spectrum and has had varying highs and lows with it at different times in his life. No matter what, though, he has always looked to video games and more specifically videos of video games on YouTube as a sort of comfort. This is how I personally am able to converse with him, discussing our mutual love of games. He always gets obsessed with a game or two for a while and then moves on, except for Undertale. He hasn't moved on since he found it shortly after it came out, and he has watched full playthroughs countless times, and when he isn't doing that, he is endlessly listening to the soundtrack. Good soundtrack. Now that the game is out on Switch, I picked it up and started playing, except I can't really enjoy the game for what it is because I'm constantly analyzing every word and every screen to try to find out what speaks to my relative. Like I'm trying to find the common denominator between the two. Has anyone on the panel ever played through a game that a friend or family member loves just to gain insight on that person's personality? Thanks for the great show. Logan from Louisville. P.S. I'm only an hour or two into Undertale. Does this game get any better? Because, oh boy. No, that's about it. The ending's interesting.
Dan
but-
Tack will be mad if he hears that.
Yeah.
Can I just high five his relative?
Yeah, I think that's possible. You can do it into the mic if you want.
Yeah. Kyle, just pretend you're...
Okay. Did it pick up?
Yeah.
We high-fived him.
Yeah, and you guys just didn't disappear either. That's weird.
That's weird. What the hell?
We can do it. Yeah, we can turn it on now.
Okay, so playing a game to understand someone's personality.
I don't have time to do that. I just don't feel
so selfish.
No, yeah, I'm just like I'm not gonna play this game just so I can understand this person. I don't know.
Okay,
Who
what
needs to understand anyone? Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna do it through the medium of a game. I don't know.
Well, when you met your cool gaming wife, Kyle, did you like play all of her favorite games to better understand her or anything?
No, 'cause we had a lot of the same favorite games like Zelda and stuff.
Indigo Prophecy?
Indigo Prophecy?
Isn't she super into?
No, she's never played it. I played Indigo Prophecy.
I thought you said she was really into Quantic Dream.
She is starting with Heavy Rain. Wait, what was it? Indigo Prophecy, then Heavy Rain?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it was starting with Heavy Rain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I will say it's not a specific person, but I played Dark Souls not specifically to like try and figure out everyone else's headspace
Right.
for why is this game such a big hit? Like what is it about this game? Because like I had tried it a couple times and it didn't like do anything for me. But then I think Dark Souls 2, I was like, I'm gonna play this all the way to the end. I'm gonna beat this just to understand it and what it is.
Do you get it now? Do you understand everything?
I understand it like 30% more, I think, but I'm still definitely not in full understanding mode.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
That's perfect. I played the new Doom just to try and understand Matt Burt's just for once in my life. That enigma, that mystery wrapped in an enigma or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Anyways, Kip from Los Angeles says, "Hey everyone, big fan of the show. Thank you, and of the magazine. Magazine, everybody. I hear a lot of you guys talk about games that you love on console and PC, but not a lot about your favorite mobile games. Do you guys have any favorites? And if you do, what are they?"
I think I don't play too many mobile games now, but I think that my two favorites would probably be Cut the Rope, like that whole series I think is super good, and Groove Coaster before they kind of went all microtransaction-y with it, like the original release.
Okay, interesting, yeah.
Because it is a really cool rhythm game you can play with one hand, and they had a lot of ways to like keep you playing and sort of build on those songs.
It's your second hand, you're just like pumping your fist in the air to the music. Like, hell yeah, Groove Coaster. Turns out I don't really want any more mobile games beyond Tetris and Bejeweled Blitz. That is just non-stop. On any sort of flight, if I have any downtime, it's just Tetris and Bejeweled Blitz. That's all you need.
I got addicted to this game from Adult Swim called Monsters Ate My Condo.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like match 3 of the same colors and the building, you're stacking them all up and you don't want them to fall over. That was like the one I can think of that I got the most into just because I just constantly loaded up because it was easy to play and put down. And
Is it free to play or?
yeah.
But like a nice free to play game?
Yeah, no, it's a nice free to play. I haven't dumped any money into it and I played it a lot. I probably should to support it.
Yeah. I will honestly go download that immediately after this because I haven't played that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You Must Build a Boat, I think, for me. It's my favorite.
Oh, yeah, another.
And Pokemon Go. I still played so much Pokemon
That's
Go.
shocking. What is the silly saga that happened? They like released a new Pokemon into Pokemon Go, which should seem like a big deal, but it just looks like a turd.
Yeah, it looks like a Klefki cousin or something.
Yeah, but not a fun version of it.
It's the Hex, not Pokemon.
Hex, not Pokemon. What's its name?
I don't know.
Meltan.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they did
announced
say
it.
what the real name is.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was released sort of like without any fanfare. It was just kind of started showing up, and if you caught it, it turned into a Ditto. And then for a whole weekend, people were like, "What is this Pokemon?" And then they kind of announced it, saying like, "Hey, it's this new Pokemon that we promised was going to come out around the time of Let's Go Pikachu."
And then there's
Eevee."
a rumor that it was a mistake, that it wasn't supposed to have launched that way.
Knowing Niantic, I'll say the odds are very high.
Yeah, yeah.
This Pokemon was a mistake.
But but I liked how they did it, even if it was a mistake. I like the idea of just like
Of a poop?
of a new Pokemon just suddenly existing in the world and being like, what is that
Yeah.
thing? I've never
Yeah.
seen that before. Like I like that. I thought
Right.
that was cool.
It's kind of weird that it turns into a Ditto because it literally just looks like a silver Ditto with a hex nut on top
Yeah,
of it,
yeah.
but the eyes are in the hex nut part. Well,
Yeah.
the eye.
It's very
one-
cool.
Yeah.
Always fun. Always fun.
You should get back into that. We can trade now.
I've turned so hard on that game. I want to
I know,
love it, but
it bums me out how hard
I realize
you
the
turned on it.
core of it is the point of Pokemon is to establish a bond with your Pokemon. And the entire framework of Pokemon Go, it is built on the function gameplay-wise of making Pokemon basically irrelevant and interchangeable. It's
Collecting
just, I'm going to catch another
multiples.
6,000, whatever. I'm going to grind them for experience, whatever. It's just, I feel no
Sure.
bond for them. And that's the point of the entire series.
So all that time I spent in Amsterdam walking around with you to get freaking Pokemon Go.
Oh, ironically,
was wasted.
and that entire time, I only wanted Mr. Mime. That
Yeah.
was the big struggle because I wanted to be closer to Kyle because he looks shocking.
If you get back into the game, I got Mr. Mimes that I can give you that I caught in
right.
London.
Wait, does the M in your middle name stand for mime?
First name's Mr.
Kyle, Mr. Mime Hilliard.
Sean Pace writes in, Dear Game Informer Podcast, thank you for your in-depth coverage on Nintendo's groundbreaking new character Toadette on last week's podcast. That's what we're here for. It clearly overshadowed all other topics as the new power-up allows to make any character a Peach variant. The internet wasted no time as a Bowser, now occupies thousands of fan-generated artwork and became a trending topic on Japanese Twitter. The character has rapidly become so popular, fans are hoping to see Nintendo adopt her as canon in addition to the Mushroom Kingdom. No chance.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
What do you guys make of fan-generated characters and Bowsette in particular here?
People are also drawing lines, by the way, of a Nintendo stock going up as a result of
Yeah,
that. I don't know about that.
At the
but-
same, it was like a weird 2% jump in their stock price
Yeah.
around that time.
How does this blow up in such a way?
Literally just fan art.
Do we
that-
need to explain it? Because I actually met. It's funny. I posted last night in our Slack channel that I was like, "Can someone explain Bowsette to me?" Because like I don't want to Google this. Like this just seems like a dangerous thing to Google. And
Yeah.
Mr. KnowYourMeme.com over
That's
here
right. That's me.
showed me the original comic that kicked it all off.
The M in
And
my middle name stands for meme.
Oh,
yeah.
but
What is the original comic?
It's a guy that says, the crown mushroom is some spicy new Mario lore, and it's the ending of Mario Odyssey, which, spoilers, is like Peach sort of rejecting Mario and Bowser.
Sure.
And then so Bowser and Mario are sort of like both looking sad, and then Bowser pulls out the crown, which was thrown off in the Peachette trailer, and then he uses it on himself and turns into Bowsette, which is like a Lady Bowser.
And it
that
turns
looks
out
like Peach.
Lady Bowser, like a Bowser that every weirdo on the internet wants to F, like that is a recipe for popularity, apparently.
Yeah.
So that it
Like,
blows up from
but
that.
I've never she is effectively a new character that fans created that I feel like I can't think of the last time a fan created character became this popular.
Yeah.
Like that original tweet has like 80,000 retweets or something.
Well, it's insane.
And the
Yeah,
guy,
that
like the
was a
guy who
mistake.
posted it was just like, I have no idea where this came from. I'm kind of scared of how popular this is.
And everyone's like, oh, I got to make the cosplay for it. I just
Yeah.
saw this image where they put Bowsette into Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, and the art like looks fantastic. Looks exactly like 1000 Year Door. It's just her talking to Mario, and she says, straight people don't exist, Mario. I don't know why that is such a weird thing.
Also, worth pointing out that I guess like people pointed out that like because Peachette sort of is Toadette and Peach, it should be Peach Sir or like some sort of combination of.
Do you
want to
correct the internet?
Yeah, once
All right.
again, guys.
direct
you
to
messed up.
camera. Just really.
It's Peach Sir, it's Peach Sir, or Bouch. I don't know.
Bout Chitty Bang Bang.
but I like it. It's funny.
Yeah.
like
I
as
think
long
so,
as it's
too.
like executed in a funny way.
I am.
think it's
They have
cool.
to have discussed it. They're not going to use Bowser in any way, but there has to have been a conversation in Nintendo Japan like, what the hell
someone
is
peeked
this?
into an executive office, did that thing where they don't go all the way in. They'd be like, "Hey, have you seen this Bowsette stuff? I just want to make sure that you see what's going on."
There's-
And they're like, "Yeah, I saw it." And
there's
they're
like
"All right,
Face
cool."
shattered on the wall next to them.
A 15-minute meeting happened right outside Miyamoto's office, and it's like, do we show him? Like, what are we gonna...
Do we show up?
And he's just like taking apart a vacuum inside. Or, like,
They
some
walk
weird-
in, and he just has like Google's like, oh, I'm still innocent, guys, and it's like, Mr. Miyamoto, we have something to show you that's gonna destroy you.
Just his eyes well up. with
Don't break
tears.
my innocence, but go on.
Miyamoto aged 35
They're
years
doing
that
what?
day.
Okay, Spencer Kordecki says, hey, everybody. Amiibo have uses in plenty of games. A lot of people, including myself, bought them for display. Has there ever been anything else that has a purpose you never intended to utilize that you bought only for display?
Okay.
I bought the vinyl soundtrack to Sunset Riders because it looks cool, and the album itself is like see-through, and there's like fake bullet holes in it and stuff. But I don't even have a record player. I just bought it because I really wanted the Sunset Riders soundtrack.
I did the same thing with the Undertale soundtrack, which is funny because it comes with, it's like this big, vinyl record, but it also comes with like this tinier record that's just like I think it's just the dog song from Undertale,
okay.
and it's like a picture of the dog, which is kind of cute. But like, yeah, I have no intention of ever actually using that record,
Right.
as a record.
Right.
I mean, pretty much every special edition of a game that I've bought that it comes with some kind of statue or figure. Like I finally have stopped doing that for a long. I haven't bought, but I remember Arkham Asylum came with like a Batarang on a stand. And I was like, I'm gonna put that on a shelf.
People think I'm cool.
And people think I'm cool. And I've gotten over that now. I don't really feel the need to have to buy that.
And you chucked your Batarang out a window.
I think I sold it on eBay.
and it never came
actually.
back to you, and you were super disappointed.
Well, it didn't fly very well because I had a stand on the bottom.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
your first mistake. Yeah. Kim, do you actually wear all that Diva clothing you buy, or
Yeah,
you
I
just have like
do.
a creepy display in your house, or it's
Oh,
just
I have
a bunch of
creepy
mannequins?
display too, but
Okay.
yeah, I wear it all.
Cool. Hey.
Yeah, clothing's different. Clothing's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
well, all clothing is just putting on display, I guess, technically, right?
Well, I bought
Yes.
a kimono from Japan just because, and I know I'm never going to wear it. It's cute.
Halloween's coming up.
I know that's what everyone tells me, but that's kind of disrespectful to wear that for Halloween.
Yeah.
For Halloween,
it's not a
I'm a
costume.
kimono.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
But
whatever.
what if it's like Bowsette wearing a kimono?
Well, I bought it just for, I guess, just to look at. I don't
get
know.
it.
Kimonos are cool. There's in that movie, The House with a Clock in its walls.
Yep.
There's he's wearing a kimono, and everyone's like, "Why are you wearing a robe?" And he goes, "It's a kimono. It's a running gag. It's very funny."
That Jack Black laugh riot. Josh Rogers from Athens, Georgia says, "Hey, Ben and crew. I thought this would be a fun game." Thank you, Josh. He says, "I was searching through my email and found all these old GI newsletters y'all sent out. I scrolled back to the oldest one I have and found a list of the week's top 10 must-read stories for Game Informer. As a fun challenge, I was wondering if based on this list, you could guess the week or month of this
boy.
newsletter."
We'll see. I actually,
No way.
behind the scenes, I put this together every week.
Oh, interesting. All right.
I don't know
Oh,
if that-
you're gonna
even the
know
first
this.
I don't
Like-
know. That might give me a leg up or not. I
You
don't
didn't
know.
take the job over from someone else. This was like your.
Jeffem
thing
had it
from
first, and then he didn't want to do it anymore. So now I do it.
Okay.
How you feel about it?
It's fine. The web people have made it very easy for me recently.
That's nice. Thank you, web people. Also, okay, these are the main news stories at the top of this newsletter.
Okay.
Dissecting Survival Horror, What Makes the Genre Special by Kimberly Wallace. And Crafting the Story of Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel by Ben Hansen.
Wow.
That's a video. This week's
Okay.
top 10 must-read stories, debating the pros and cons of the Army of Two series.
That's a good headline.
Oh, before your time. I'm glad you appreciate that one. Blog herding. 8 games that changed mid-development. Reeves Play, the official trailer. Transformers Fall of Cybertron review. Top 43 video game redheads. What is that?
I wrote
Kyle-
that.
Kyle
yeah,
totally
that's a
wrote
joke.
that.
Are you
feature.
one of
it's
them?
very funny.
Okay.
A lot
What
of
was-
good Jeff Cork jokes in there.
What's the funniest thing in there? Did you have any? Like,
This is a Jeff Cork joke. He said that I should put Majora's Mask Moon on there, and then just imply that if you were able to look at the back of its head, it would have a little red ponytail.
That's perfect.
Oh, and Master Chief was on that list too, which people got very upset about. That's a funny feature. I like
Over
when
my
people-
dead body.
Yeah.
All right, what month? What year?
Okay.
I'm gonna guess October 2013.
Interesting guess.
October 2014.
Interesting guess.
I'm gonna say September 2012.
August 25th, 2012.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Game Informer history. Okay, last one, real quick. Ready? Alec from Scituate, Massachusetts says, "Hello, everybody. I have a game for you. Come to a consensus on which of the games released in the same year was more influential. Not the better game, just which had a better effect on future games."
So every top 50 and or 100 list we ever do.
Okay, bigger effect
end
on
all
future
debate.
games.
Okay.
Which is more influential?
Here we go.
This could be tough,
I am
but we have to fly.
focusing.
Uncharted 2 versus Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum.
You think of like Tomb
Uncharted
Raider.
2. I think of Uncharted 2.
I think it might be
that
Uncharted
was such
2.
a
Are you
gap
serious?
from that first game.
And just in terms of,
yeah.
like, set piece design.
Long term, like
Yeah.
but that didn't
That
did
set up
not
the whole
did not
franchise.
create any new gameplay mechanics. It was still a third person cover shooter. Arkham
It doesn't
Asylum
need to create
created
that.
like a whole new genre.
I think in terms of like studios saying we want a set piece moment, let's make an Uncharted style
Mm-hmm.
moment. I think that has a bigger
I
impact.
think there's
Whereas
like
more than
games
people
that
saying
have
like,
full on ripped off Arkham Asylum, like
Yeah, like
Shadow of
5.
Mordor. And, no, you guys are wrong.
5 games have ripped it off.
Wrong.
Kim, I'm with you.
I'm with
Let's
you.
go to the grave. Let's drive
Call
this
of Duty-
car
Oh
off
my
the
If you
cliff.
want to talk about set pieces, Call of Duty established that sort of mold of like you
Not
got-
third person.
Well, whatever.
Not the way
I don't know what that means.
Uncharted did.
Yeah, it's different.
All right,
And
fine.
let's not back that up anymore. Anyways, 2011, Skyrim versus Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
Ooh,
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
Dark Souls.
Why are we
Interesting.
agreeing on everything?
know.
This is weird.
Skyrim's great, but I just don't think it did stuff really well that had already been done before. But where Dark
You mean
Souls,
like Demon Souls? And Dark Souls?
that's a good point. But Dark Souls was the one that kind of like that's the true starting line for that sort of
Yeah, Dark Souls
popular
took off in a way
genre.
that series would not have
Okay,
otherwise. at
sure.
the time.
All right, Symphony of the Night, Final Fantasy 7.
Final Fantasy 7.
Final Fantasy
Probably
7.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get out of here with that, Alec.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 or San Andreas?
Resident Evil 4.
Four.
San Andreas.
Resident Evil 4.
4. BioShock, GTA 4.
Bioshock.
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 BioShock. Oh, sorry, I haven't been saying the years, but okay, 1997, GoldenEye versus Mario Kart 64.
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
That started
Gotta
in
be
console
GoldenEye.
first person shooters.
Yeah,
But do you think that would have happened anyway?
Much later.
Well,
maybe.
of course it would have, yeah.
Yeah.
1994, Super Metroid or Mega Man X?
Super Metroid.
Super Metroid.
Yeah,
Super Metroid.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Kyle. 2001, Metal Gear Solid 2 or Devil May Cry?
Devil May Cry.
Wait, who's really
Metal Gear
influenced by Devil
Solid
May
2.
Cry?
Who's really influenced by Metal Gear?
Wait,
Metal Gear Solid 2 specifically?
which Devil May Cry?
1.
Devil May
Oh.
Cry 1.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, Metal
but-
Gear Solid 2.
I think I might go Metal
Really?
Gear
Like
Solid 2.
God of War and Ninja Gaiden basically came out of.
Damn it, that's a good point.
Yeah,
That-
I might
like,
go Devil May Cry.
In terms of
on
character
this
action
one.
games, that spawned an entire new genre effectively.
Damn it, I'm changing my answer.
Yeah, but everybody, when they talk about like a twist in the game, will say we could do a Metal Gear Solid 2 style moment.
And look at all the games that have done that since.
Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed 3, kind of. 2007, Bioshock versus Modern Warfare.
Bioshock.
Modern Warfare.
Ooh, Modern Warfare
Modern
for its
Warfare.
online gameplay.
Yeah, of course, Modern Warfare. RPG systems
I like
in
that. That was good.
shooters. There we go. Awesome. What do you guys like? Email of the
I
week.
like the last one.
Yeah, that
Part of
last
it.
one was cool.
Do you, Alec?
Yeah, I like that. I like that one. I always try not to go to the one we just did. But,
Yeah.
but that one was good. That was
It's my
fun.
fault for always putting the fun game ones at the end. Personally, this person that made the sports graph.
That is pretty thorough though.
Look, it didn't lead to
Yeah.
the most interesting discussion, but that is effing cool.
That's effort.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is a lot of effort.
It's at least an
That's
hour.
also
he
something
says.
that you specifically requested in the last episode that
You're
somebody
right.
made for you.
You're right. You're
That
right.
establishes a very
Bias.
dangerous precedent.
I'll go with the room. Let's go with Alec, and this is from
But I love that graph.
Sorry,
I'm
graph
sorry to
guy.
dismiss
Yeah,
it
the
now,
graph
but the graph
is
is very
great.
cool, and I appreciate it. I like it.
Alec from Situate, Massachusetts. And I don't think we've ever shown this on air or have talked about it, but Massachusetts, we'll put it up on the big board. But just to make it easier, we also have like a smaller version of the big board. Hang on a second.
Oh.
That you've been maintaining since. the
Yeah, so
beginning
this
of
is the close-up if you're watching the video version, so you can actually see more detail.
We don't have anybody in the middle.
Yeah, this is flyover country, so people could
We're
really
either-
work on it. In Massachusetts, all right, congratulations. We'll put you on the big board. That'll be fun. Give you the whole pinup. As for now, holy cow. Spider-Man, Game Club. The grand
Yeah.
finale, Sergio Vasquez. We have a
Yeah.
lot to talk about, man.
What?
You ready for it?
What?
Here it is. Spoilers for the very end of Spider-Man coming up after this. Hello and welcome to the grand finale of the GI Game Club for Insomniac Spider-Man.
No, say it isn't over.
Oh man,
Oh.
maybe it isn't. There's DLC on the way.
what?
But we're going to talk about all that. So if you haven't finished Insomniac Spider-Man, I wouldn't recommend watching or listening to this part because I'm here. Leo Vader's here. Burp into the mic, Leo. Congratulations. Sergio Vasquez
Hello.
and Ben Reeves. We did it!
We
Same
did it!
crew, entire
Oh
game
my
club.
gosh.
This is mission accomplished. Rarely does this happen. Rarely.
When you get trustworthy people, it happens 100% of the time.
Why would we get anybody else? You think I'm going to let Joe Juba back into this room?
Joe Juba?
The joke himself? The human joke? You guys, Spider-Man is done. We finished it.
Yeah.
Ben Reeves?
We did it. I saw credits. I saw post credits.
Did you?
Some
Okay.
mid-credits?
Here's the problem with the credits. Let's start right at the credits.
Oh, okay, why not?
First of all, pros and cons of credits. Pros.
Acknowledges the work of the people who worked on the game.
It's not really pros. It's just a list of names.
Oh, I see. But in
Pros joke.
alphabetical order, mind you. And I was going to double check it to see if this is the first Insomniac game, like how long Insomniac's been doing that. But that's a good, classy, Valvian touch.
Yeah.
You know? It's a good move. Cons of credits. Saying, hey, you can hold X to skip credits. And then you're left in the state of, does that mean that we'll jump directly to the post-credits video? Or what does that mean exactly? So I sat through those suckers because I was scared of missing this thing.
Did you use the right analog stick to scroll through faster?
I did a little bit.
Yeah.
I might have
I
cheated.
also think that's a pro because it's nice to be able to, all right, let's get this moving.
So, okay.
But I appreciate, like, all right, let's give everybody their due. They spent some time working on the game, so yeah.
And they look cool.
can flash on my screen for like 2 seconds. That's cool.
Yeah, and you just repeatedly give the tip of the cap.
That's
saying,
right,
Good
that's
job,
right,
everybody.
right.
Good job. Well
Write them
done.
all down separately
Yeah.
so that I can put them on my wall.
Can write them letters.
Okay. What did you guys think jumping back into that world after the end of Act 2? What were you guys doing? Because it is chaos in the streets, if you didn't notice.
Yeah. It was a little bit weird just because I'd done like basically every side mission up to that. Like every side mission.
Oh,
I guess,
wow, okay.
in the game.
Like even the sort of the smaller activities or just like the side, like the blue.
The blue, yeah, everything. The side activities, all the crimes and all
Okay.
that stuff. And so there wasn't that much to do other than the main story. So there were moments where I was like the next side mission or the next main mission has to happen, but he's like, well, I guess I should go on patrol for a minute and just and there wasn't anything to do.
He just literally walked around a building just giving high fives.
Yeah, it's like,
As
all right.
Sable's people tried to shoot you down.
But to answer your question, I thought it was cool how the whole city changed, and it was definitely in a state of disarray. There were more, I don't know if there's more crimes going on, but there was like people up in every like the roof of every building trying to shoot Spider-Man down.
Right. Yeah. Alex from Barnstaple, England says, my favorite part are the pockets of bad guys that now litter what was previously a reasonably safe space to swing around in. It's really ramped up the tension, having your spidey sense constantly going off while you swing around, and I love the feeling of cleaning up the streets. When I see those clusters of red dots on my minimap, I can't resist taking 2 minutes to take them down and restore safety to another street corner. They don't respawn if you defeated them, which is a nice touch and helps you feel like you're taking back
really?
the city one inch at a
That's
time.
cool. I wish I'd known that.
It was interesting because, like, at that point, I was kind of mulling over whether or not I was going to do more side stuff because I was the opposite of you where I hadn't done too much of it yet. And at that point, I figured, okay, well, maybe it'll return to normal once I've beaten the game. So I kind of, at that point, I more or less mainlined it because I was just like, okay, this, if I sort of like start, doing all the side stuff, I'm just going to get like, it's going to be annoying to run around the city with all these people shooting me, so I may as well finish it. So I feel like, on the one hand, that's kind of a bummer, but I think it ups the sense of urgency in terms of like, okay, things are happening. I need to get stuff done now, which I think kind of conflicts with the few moments where they're like, oh, I guess I can just do whatever. But it's like, no, like people are, it's chaos in the city. Like,
As
I don't
John
know why
Hammond said, people are dying.
Yeah, so it's like, why would you go and chase pigeons when they're like, when everyone someone on every block has a gun at this point, right? Like,
I always stop what I'm doing when a pigeon pops up.
Even the pigeons have guns. It's crazy.
Oh,
Because
God.
Tyler from Rhode Island says, the size of the city is excellent, the character depth is great, but the amount of critical disaster taking place is staggering. Apocalyptic bioweapons, constant gunfire and crime, 6+ active, deranged, uber-deadly villains at once. I constantly felt sorry for Spider-Man and his inability to handle it all, and it left me feeling helpless. Is this what we want out of a Spider-Man game? It didn't feel like a very friendly neighborhood. Also, just on the crimes front, David made this comparison, and then also Juan Benitez, but he goes further with this. He says, hey guys, so we need to talk about that third act. I was really loving the first 2 acts and kind of laughing at some of the similarities to Arkham, but then New York turned into Gotham. Humor me for a bit, but Scarecrow releases fear toxin on the city, Doc Ock releases Devil's Breath, I have to fight the Sinister Six in very reminiscent fights to any Arkham game. Fighting Rhino was like fighting Bane, Vulture equals Man-Bat, Scorpion has a Scarecrow vibe, Mr. Negatives equals Ra's al Ghul. Even the Doc Ock fight was very Joker in the first Arkham. We have to punch him around and then do the QuickTime event to punch him with the gel. What happened? I thought they had a great flow, but then to cherry pick Arkham bosses and scenarios for the big climax, I felt like it was a missed opportunity for Insomniac to make their own mark.
I feel like the key difference, which is, I think it's interesting that he like makes parallels, because I feel like while the sort of the plot elements I think match up, I felt like it was totally different from Arkham in that those, I think my favorite fight in the game was the one against Electro and the Vulture, because I feel like taking them both on at the same time, I think like I never hit the ground during that fight, and it was because of like, all right, I have to constantly manage sort of this guy, and it was a really cool fight that you honestly don't get all that often in games in terms of like the dual boss fight where sort of both entities feel distinct. I think doesn't happen that often. And that was a really cool fight, and like that one and the Scorpion and Rhino one, even like just the fact that they're sort of mixing the bosses in that way, I think was actually like one of the best things they've done in the game.
I completely agree. Yeah, those are my favorite scenes in the game, probably.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like it was halfway through the fight, you realize like, oh, we're just staying in the air the whole time. This is something interesting. And I feel like maybe I just am terrible playing, and people watching gameplay footage can probably attest to that. But at the same time, I felt like in theory, this is one of those fights that's cool on paper, but I felt like it wasn't quite achieving it. And apparently listening to interviews with Brian Dintahar, he said that originally that was supposed to be 2 fights. And then somebody said, they're both aerial. Like if we have to combine fights, we can combine them. Whereas the Rhino Scorpion one, they said that was always planned together. Which that one almost felt more.
I feel like I had more of it. Like I didn't like that one as much because it felt a little more video gamey, and that like, okay, here are sort of the critical points where you have to lure Rhino in and then deal damage so you can actually hit him. And then like Scorpion wasn't that interesting to fight, and I also was kind of like Scorpion in that game overall kind of left a bad taste in my mouth because like that trippy sequence I wasn't really into.
We have so much to talk about.
That felt,
Can we get to that in a little bit?
To jump onto his point though, like comparing it to Arkham is a little bit of, I don't know, he's the one making the comparisons, and maybe there are some comparisons you can make, but I wouldn't say it's it was 1-to-1 or anything like
Right.
that. I think, yeah, like the Raja Ghul versus Mr. Negative, like I don't know that there were that many comparisons other than they had a sword.
I thought of it more in the beginning almost because when Kingpin goes down and it's like, well, he's keeping all the other supervillains at bay and then they kind of rise up in his absence of power. That was kind of the setup for Arkham Knight of like Joker's gone, now everybody else is rising up.
Right. And the other part of it is like there's only so many different like archetypes of boss fights in video games. So
Right,
that's
yeah.
maybe part of it is like the fact there's two big hulking bruisers that run
Yeah.
after you. Like I think those fights are different enough even on their own, Bane versus like
Yeah.
the Rhino, that I wouldn't compare them exactly 1-to-1 the way he is. But
You've played a lot of Spider-Man games. What percentage of Rhino boss fights throughout Spider-Man's history are like the video game staple 101? He charges into a wall, you dodge, and then he gets stunned.
oh, probably 100%. Like, yeah, it's like, what else are you going to do? He's
It's
the Rhino. Yeah.
Yeah. Hazel Muhammad writes in about these fights. He says the tandem boss battles were enjoyable, if a bit simplistic. You basically had to focus on one big bad guy while dodging the other. It felt somewhat repetitive when you make your way to Rhino and Scorpion, but I do thank the developers for teaching the player how to handle Scorpion in the hallucination sequence, since it makes the fight a bit less hectic than the Electro Vulture fight. Barbara Dro, Game Club champion, says, wow, the Electro Vulture fight was great. I can't recall the last time I fought a double boss battle in a game, but I do sort of wish we'd been able to go against Scorpion one-on-one. There seems to be quite a bit of history between him and the Spider-Man. Would have been good to see how that would have concluded, but I did love how he and Rhino kept bickering during the fight. That was fun, and like it culminates with them being locked in the cargo container at the end there, which you'd think Rhino could get out
you'd think
of.
Rhino would break out of that.
Yeah, they're like surrounding him with guns. It's like, what if he breaks out? You're gonna shoot him? That's gonna stop him?
I mean, that looked like a big cargo container. I don't know.
I did love. First of all, okay, couple questions for you, Reeves. When you first start fighting Rhino, Peter Parker has some line, or Spider-Man has some line where he says, "You're my second favorite Russian." Am I missing something very obvious for what he's talking about there?
Is Sable the other one?
Vladimir Putin.
Oh, Vlad. I get
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that was like an allusion to something or what, but I don't know if canonically in the comics he has like a favorite Russian.
I can't think of. Is he big
'Cause I believe-
alcoholic, a white Russian, maybe?
Do you want me to Google it?
yeah,
Spider-Man's
that's
favorite
it.
Russian?
I think it was just a joke, like
white
you're
Russian.
my
Just a
random
second
thing to
favorite,
say.
Yeah.
We should make sure to talk about it long enough that people can finish typing their comments of what it is.
I
Before we
mean,
move
yeah,
on.
he has other Russian
Myriad.
villains, but
Okay. Also, I like the moment in that damn it, sorry, you're so mean. I like the moment in that fight too, where Spider-Man just will not stop f***ing making jokes, and then at a certain point he goes like, "Hey, watch out, Rhino, poachers!" And Rhino charges him, and he goes like, "You are not funny." Just like loses it. It was
Yeah.
very cool.
I actually,
Rhino, the hero of the piece.
on the point of the
he's just saying what we're all thinking.
on the point of the quips, though, I do appreciate that they know when to tone that down towards the end
Yeah.
of the game, where like him and the Doc Ock fight, like there's like he doesn't really quip at all because like it's
You're right.
it's a very stern acknowledgement of like this guy he cares about. Like there's a difference between the fights he's had before and the fight and like this particular fight.
I thought it was
Although,
weird
yeah.
he was quipping at Aunt May's deathbed. That was just
Yeah.
really uncalled for.
I guess she won't be in the sequel.
Well, honestly, we don't want to jump the gun too much here, but I did think about
Aunt
that.
May, I help you out of bed?
But in the after that entire sequence when they're back in the restaurant at the far end, right? They get
Yeah.
their big makeout session on the table or whatever. Swipe the ketchup off the table and passionately make out. No, but he's joking. They're joking around about like, I guess I accidentally made Doc Ock. There's some line about like, oh, remember last time when I made Doc Ock and the Devil's Breath? He makes some joke about it. He's like, hey, your aunt just died as a result of you doing this work.
Well,
You think it'd be
wasn't
a
that
little
like a month
serious.
or two later?
I guess you're right.
There
He
was-
should be joking about it.
Yeah, I mean,
but-
you're totally over it.
I'm into
Yeah.
dark humor now.
No, it's a valid point, but at some point it's like, all right, move on.
Yeah,
I do it while it's topical.
Were you guys surprised by them shoving the boss battles together? Because I feel like I started Act 3 of this is going to be a lot of boss fights. If we have to take out 6 of these dudes?
Yeah, I thought it was just gonna be like Act 3 was just gonna be one boss fight after the other,
Right.
and it kind of is in a way. But like, I appreciated that they went this dual route instead of like the very sort of like, okay, now I have to take on this guy, because I think my immediate complaint was like, why don't they just team up and like kick his ass again? Like it doesn't. I think the last two obviously are kind of split, but I think I very much like that they changed it up with the dual boss fights for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I liked the sequence where you're in Otto's secret, research lab, and you kind of learn the backstory of what everybody's getting out of the deal. But do you feel like their motivation was clear enough, where everybody's like, "Yeah, sure, we hate Osborn enough, and he can actually help us out with these
Right.
very specific things. Like Rhino, he can just get him out of the suit.
Which is
apparently I
like
was
that
looking for.
raised so many questions for me as I was okay. Look, fine, but I feel like that suit is so stuck that couldn't he just like I don't know stop exercising and lose muscle weight and eventually squeeze out of it?
Go on a
And
diet,
How does he
you'll-
pee? Like that was
Right.
like I spent like a good amount of time thinking like, does that make sense? Does that actually make sense, or is that bull crap? Like, is that a comic book thing, or I don't
He
know?
could be lying.
There's a lot of comic book stuff in here.
Oh, I can't get out of this suit. I'm sorry.
I did think it was cool, conceptually again, when you're playing as Miles, like trying to dodge the Rhino. That stealth sequence eventually got annoying. I was a little bit frustrated by it, but the idea of being, somebody without powers in this world, like trying to dodge that, it was cool at first. But then it got to the point of, why does Rhino care so much about this random idiot? Like,
Yeah,
he's like,
all
"I
he
will
did was
find
make
you."
noise, right?
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know he was doing anything.
No, not at all.
You smell like someone who might be a Spider-Man someday.
You're ripe to get bitten. Yeah. Leo, what was your favorite sequence of everything here?
My favorite sequence, probably the Rhino Scorpion fight.
Really?
Really? That fight in particular?
Yeah, I don't know how much it rips off Bane. Really, like I didn't get that far in Arkham City or Arkham Knight or whatever.
Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so you're good.
Just from the start of fighting Rhino, and it's like, oh, you're not making him run into stuff. You're dropping the things on him, and
But
once
you're
you
still
figure out
making
you're
him
doing
come over to that area.
You're
so
like
you can drop
doing the
thing on him.
whole basically the bait and switch. Basically, like I'm over here, and then you like dodge out of the way and like.
It's
Yeah.
slightly
slam
more
him.
exciting because
Yeah,
you're
right,
right in
for
front of
sure.
him. And plus, once you like think, oh, maybe I need to do this, and then you start doing it, and then it goes into slow motion. You know you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That moment was pretty cool.
That was cool. I did the mistake of like I released all of my electrobots on him at the very beginning, and that does enough damage to him where you get past that first part,
Oh.
and then Scorpion shows up, and so then with Scorpion jumping around all over the place, I didn't understand what I was supposed to do to the Rhino, and so like in the confusion, I was like, this is a mess. So I had to like take Scorpion out of the picture and then figure out what I was supposed to do to Rhino in the first place.
Weird.
So it was
Oh,
kind of
I
weird.
did the exact. Well, I went the opposite route. I took out Rhino first and then Scorpion.
Yeah, because you didn't understand what to do with Scorpion.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely liked those two double boss fights where definitely like they're
Yeah.
tied pretty
Yeah, for
much
sure.
for my favorite part because the other earlier boss fights and everything you feel more confined and it's more specific.
It feels more
mechanics.
set piecey.
Yeah, but this is more like use what you've learned, use how good you've gotten at swinging
Yeah.
Yeah.
and attacking and
Also-
dodging in midair to do this.
First of all, I was a little bit bummed out when I think it was the first objective for Act 3. It was, hey, it's Rhino and Scorpion.
Yeah.
They're out there. Go up against who you want to go up against. And then I went to both locations and you just take out their thugs, which is
Yeah.
kind of a lame
Yeah.
objective. Like, I thought this was going to be like choose your boss fight, which I was really excited
I thought
about.
it would have been cool if they had like, all right, here's 4 objectives. You can take out all the bosses in any order you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But then also it was like getting to that point, I loved seeing Electro like flying around. Anytime I see a boss or anything in the open world itself, that's always so cool. So like swinging up on that boss fight and just seeing him zipping around, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Just it's probably some antiquated notion, but just that we have the tech to actually put the boss in the world that I've been swinging around in.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
No,
It's
I
cool.
thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I like that they do set up Electro a little bit. I mean, I know they kind of used the mechanic, but like the one where you have to take out all the electric towers, basically, and there's one on the helicopter, basically teaching you like, hit the generator first if you want to like stop
Yeah.
Electro, and then in the boss fight they don't explain it, so because you already know. Like that's a good sort of way to make the boss fight more exciting.
What about that very basic concept, which you do a fair amount in this game that we haven't talked about yet, of just shooting your webs after following like electric cables to the electricity boxes?
Oh, it's the best thing in the game.
Wait, what is this?
You know, where it's like, hey, use your spidey sense to track the electricity boxes, and then you have to shoot your webs at it to
Yeah, you
shut
have
them
to find
down.
the wiring, and
okay.
then
It's just like this small little gameplay thing that they have recurring throughout the game. That's one of those classic video game details that I guess we did a lot, but there's nothing remarkable, and I don't know if it's really necessary.
Yeah,
but
it was
sure.
fine.
It added time
it
to the
was
clock.
fine.
Over
Yeah.
the process. On the combat front, real quick, we have a couple thoughts here. Cheese2B says, one of my favorite things in this game has been throwing random objects at enemies. The best object by far had to be hurling manhole covers at people like a frisbee. Those things would have taken their freaking heads off, but all they do is knock them back a bit.
Yeah.
It's funny how many boss fights even come down to like the L1, R1, chuck things at him. Even
Yeah.
Doc Ock, which we'll talk about in a bit here. I like it. There's a moment where he's like, I have no weakness. And it's like, yeah, it turns out it's L1 and R1, the thing I've been doing the entire game.
I also like that.
At one point, I was doing it so much that I accidentally did it after a crime had like resolved, and someone said, "Hey, he's throwing stuff around. He is a danger, like Jameson said," or something like that.
Oh no! I accidentally pressed those 2 buttons. I really like doing that too, and I really liked like ripping the turrets off of the top of the Sable trucks as well and throwing them at enemies. That was always really
I'm
satisfying.
doing that. That sounds
Really?
fun. No, I don't
That's
think I
like
took out a
the
single
only
Sable
way you
thing.
can take out the
Yeah.
the groups of Sable guys is if you get the turrets first. For me,
Yeah.
anyway. Otherwise, they just hold you down the whole fight.
Okay. Let's see. This is Michael from Idaho. He says, "What's your favorite small thing in the game?" Mine is when I see a thug near a wall and spamming R1 to see them splat up against it. He says this game is his first ever platinum. Favorite small thing.
Actually, Platinum didn't make it. It was Insomniac.
That's very funny.
Screw you, buddy.
It is always satisfying to see someone pinned up against a wall,
Yeah.
especially because it's always on the fence of like, is this actually going to pin the person with this impact web, or are they going to be invincible to it for
Right.
some weird reason? So whenever it works, yes.
Yeah.
Feels
Well,
awesome.
even if they stick right to the wall immediately, that's great. If they get all webbed up and then you punch them a couple times and punch them into a wall and then they get stuck, that's also
Yeah,
really satisfying.
for sure.
Yeah, or swing kicking them into a street
yeah.
light and
Yeah.
getting them stuck there.
That's really good.
Good stuff.
Ready for this crap, Leo? James
no.
Hicks writes in,
Oh,
your old rival.
Here we go.
Hixadoo says, "Hey, did you know that if you double tap L1, you can cycle between your current and most recently used gadget?"
What?
Leo has left the building, ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen.
where were you? Act 1.
Yeah, no,
James
this game
Hicks?
club's been going on for 3 weeks, James Hicks.
This is exactly the kind of thing Hicks would do.
Hello.
Typical Hicks. That's really great advice. Thank you.
He says he didn't know about it until the new Game Plus either, so you're not
interesting.
missing out on much. Real quick from Connor in Laramie, Wyoming. He says, "Hey, I want to mention that J. Jonah Jameson in the last act is actually a pretty good news person when he's not focused on Spider-Man. He's telling people to stay safe, and his takedowns of Sable, I think, speak to the potential of the character if only he wasn't obsessed with Spider-Man. This is actually one of my favorite things about some of the comics, where eventually in the Ultimate continuity and more recently in the main one, but J. Jonah Jameson actually becomes a staunch ally of Spider-Man. He can still be a gruff and likable, but he's actually a better guy." Yeah, he was saying some truthful things towards the end there. But I don't know if I just didn't play enough Endgame, but I never got the thing that we thought was being foreshadowed.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys. Yeah, I didn't
What
hear
do
that
you mean?
either.
Of him, he never said like, Spider-Man's all right. Like there was never the 180.
Oh, interesting.
That Spider-Man's like, by the end of the day, I'm going to get you to say something nice to me.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, in the end, I've been
With a
doing
carrot in his mouth?
Endgame stuff, and he kind of shifts in that direction, but he never like says like because he acknowledges that Spider-Man saved the city. Of like,
Oh, he does? Okay.
He 100% says that, but he attributes it to him. Of like, well, obviously, I have it from a source that Spider-Man listens to this show. So it's clear that he listened to me and has become a better person.
Oh, that's cool. I was during Act 3, I finally realized I don't really know why J. Jonah Jameson hates Spider-Man. Lee, if I put a gun to your head right now and ask you why that is. Why does he hate him? Does anybody know?
No, I have no idea.
Reese?
Scared of spiders.
Can you help us?
In the comics, there's like a pretty famous issue where he like has this monologue. It's like, oh, the reason I hate Spider-Man is because he's better than me, and it's like I'm jealous, basically. It's
J. Jonah Jameson jealous?
yeah, this was his middle name is J. Jealous Jameson.
Huh. That's it?
That
know.
was the reason in the comics. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you can read it for what it is. I kind of like the idea of he's just like, kind of a grumpier old dude, and he's sort of set in his ways. And like, I mean,
Yeah.
Spider-Man is connected to a lot of like destruction in the city. So
It's
you're
just
kind of like, if this guy wasn't around, he wouldn't be like causing a mess,
Yeah.
It's the way people talk about like Fortnite, They're like, oh, all the kids are playing Fortnite. Everybody thinks Fortnite's so great,
Exactly.
In this world, he's kind of the
just
Fortnite.
like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
His wife is always talking about, man, I love Spider-Man. He's like, why don't you love me the way you love Spider-Man?
These are
That's my
all
theory.
adequate reasons. It's such a dick move just to leave people hanging on a podcast. Okay, guys. What was that? Daniel writes in.
This podcast is over.
3-second pause. Anyway.
Daniel says, hey, I ended up rolling through all of Acts 2 and 3 and everything else to get 100% over the weekend. Loved it. I very rarely do this, and the feelings in my index finger the following night when I tried to pull the right trigger playing Tomb Raider attest to that. I guess the swinging was just too good. I'll make a note to hold R2 sometimes rather than pulling and releasing for each and every swing when he plays the sequel. so his finger was sore because he would just swing manually. Did you guys do that
Only
often?
I don't
zip.
think I've ever had that problem.
Only zip.
Only zip everywhere.
Really?
No, that's what you do if your fingers
Oh,
in
okay.
pain.
That's true. That is helpful. Matt Clark says getting 100% took too much time. There were too many side missions. It's kind of annoying. I did not get to that point. Did anybody here get to that point?
I did 100%, yeah. It was, at one point, I think we talked about this last time, but there were too many crime missions. Like, having 5 of each type of crime to do in each section of the city is just a little overkill, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like they're supposed to be spontaneous events, but I think when you have to itemize them and say like, well, I have to wait around and, for this crime to spawn, it's kind of annoying. And also, yeah, it's like, here's another fight. Like, I don't know that those are the best events, but like, I feel like most of the other side stuff ends up being pretty cool. Like the backpacks have, like a nice story behind them. The pigeons are kind of cool, sort of swinging missions. Like the Taskmaster stuff can be kind of difficult, but I enjoy the challenge. So like, I think the crime stuff was the only thing that I got that I haven't 100%ed the game yet, but like those are the things that I think if I get tired of the game, that'll be why.
Yeah. Real quick, Daniel Heidbrink, I should say, from Western Missouri. He says, first off, the game's freaking great. Said in my best Jeff Cork impression, he said. Can anybody do a better Jeff Cork saying freaking great?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking great. Secondly, to the point below is a somewhat odd experience I've encountered while playing. While swinging around, and specifically when dropping down at higher heights, there have been a handful of times when I've literally felt my stomach drop as if I'm riding a roller coaster. Has anybody else experienced this?
A roller coaster?
Yeah, a couple times.
Not in this game. I get that in strange games. I think like Monster Hunter.
Strange games.
Like Monster Hunter World,
Okay.
it did it for me if I was falling for a long ways,
Yeah,
or even
sure.
like a lot of old school games. I think if I'm just dropping randomly, then my
Sure.
stomach will
I
drop out
thought
as well.
the Infamous series was particularly good at that. I don't know if you
Really?
remember that, but they did a really good sense of like, I don't know, movement
Distance,
or momentum when
Yeah.
falling.
The only time that ever happened to me was actually in Half-Life 2 when you're on that bridge and you're kind of like going through all the railings and stuff, and I looked down and that was like the only time where I was like, I definitely do not want to fall right now.
Yeah.
But I really do enjoy the momentum of falling and swinging and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, real quick, gameplay stuff, a little bit more. James Burkett says, it's amazing they allowed Spider-Man to change his suit at any time. In the Arkham games, you have to wait around until New Game Plus to go into other suits so that you wouldn't break immersion. Yeah, and a couple of people love the cartoon suit. They were super... Yeah, here we go. So this is...
I love the cartoons.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
do
that was
too,
like
I
a-
played
but-
a good part of it with the cartoon suit, yeah.
Yeah, so Andrew Palomo and Carl Nielsen both absolutely love the vintage old school look for the comic book suit. It's awesome, and they even say that they want like the whole city to be cel shaded like that,
Yeah.
which is a fun idea,
That'd be
but
cool.
technically might be difficult.
Go play Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I guess that's what you need to do. But at the same time, I kept going back to just the standards of I would go to the Stark suit or I'd go to just the Insomniac suit because I didn't want to break that immersion. You know, I didn't want it to be maybe a New Game Plus. I would get freaky
Yeah.
with it, but like I didn't want some dopey looking Spider-Man in my cutscenes.
I was with you. I definitely switched to the cartoon Spider-Man after I finished the game, started doing side stuff. But until then, it was all like white suit.
Yeah.
Basically.
There was a couple of times where I would like throw on the 2099 suit, which I thought was really cool looking, and I didn't realize I had nostalgia for it, but I was like, oh, I'm Spider-Man 2099. All right.
Is that from the comics or from that old game?
It's from the comics, yeah.
No, I know, but
and
your nostalgia.
And in the game. Oh, my nostalgia? Probably from the comics. I didn't love that game that much.
Okay, gotcha. Ryan Clausen has a very good point from San Diego here. He says, while playing Spider-Man, I noticed that during certain sections, like the party scene, people are dressed like supervillains like Rhino or Mysterio. Along with this, it is established that the Twitter section in the menu, along with other world-building areas, that many people have died from attacks by these villains. Wouldn't that be like dressing up as terrorists at a Halloween party? It's a
Yeah.
weird move, right?
Oh, that is a good
Yeah.
point. I didn't even think about that.
Hey, Osama bin Laden party again, everybody. Here we go. And everyone's woo, getting drunk.
Jesus, Jerry.
I wish it was just one person and they were being like lambasted for their offensive costume.
Oh, it's like, dude, what the hell? My aunt died from me.
Yeah.
Everybody's aunt died.
Aunts aren't safe.
The Aunt Massacre.
I feed on aunts. Nathan from Roanoke, Virginia says, hey, you keep asking for granular details. Here you go. One of the coolest details I noticed in the game. Inside of the feast center, the main floor is a big gymnasium. If you look at the floor, the detail level is awesome. Areas near the edge of the gym are far less worn and still have a nice reflective finish that looks so realistic. In the center of the gym, where the basketball nets would be, it's far more worn, with individual pieces of wood that make up the floor being partially reflective with edges that look very worn. It's an insane amount of attention to detail, even thinking about which sections of the floor would be more worn than others. There you go, granular detail. Thank you, Nathan.
That's
Too
cool.
granular.
Yeah,
So
come
is-
on. Just broaden out a little bit. Nathan. Did you like the game or not?
Is the Feast Center supposed to be like an old high school that got converted into a homeless shelter? What is it?
I think they force the homeless to play basketball games against each other to figure out who gets
Hell
the
yeah.
resources
I
each
get it
week.
now, yeah.
Nathan also says, as far as the story goes, I loved it overall, but anyone else thinks Silver Sable changed her tune way too quickly. I thought she'd be pissed Spider-Man failed and was beaten by Octavius. Her line of, "You can repay me by not dying," was particularly strange, as minutes before she was ready to shoot him in an instant.
Yeah, that turn was super weird. Like her character becoming like, oh, I guess Spider-Man's all right after trying to kill him like seconds before.
It seemed like they were like, we got to get her off the board.
Yeah.
I think in interviews with Brian Hittar, he talked about how originally she had a much bigger role, obviously, and then of all the people to whittle down, she was one that got short shrift.
I was also frustrated because like they have a conversation after that whole mission of like, all right, Spider-Man, I guess you're cool now. My guys are still gonna try to kill you anyway. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't know, they're not gonna listen to me.
Right.
And then like they don't remove the Sable people at all, even though like there's no reason for them to continue shooting you. Like I thought that was just a weird
Yeah.
like handout. Well, we're not gonna do that. So it's like
I almost, they could have just not addressed it at all. Honestly.
Yeah.
It would have been fine. It's like, yeah, it's a video game. This stuff's going to keep happening if I want to keep
yeah, it's a
running
weird thing to
for
say. Well, now that you bring it up, it's totally clashing with the game. But like if you
Yeah.
hadn't mentioned it,
That
Yeah,
is
if you
weird.
hadn't
Good
brought
point,
it up,
Silver
yeah.
Sable.
Yeah.
I did like before that moment, though, you know, when Spider-Man's trying to take out, I think it's demons outside the tower. I forget. And there's still demons around. They never
I
go
think
away.
they're demons, yeah.
But then the Sable police come jetpacking around. He's like, what is this, 1984 or something? But I like the push and pull of like, whose side are you on now? Like all these conflicting armies kind of getting together and just trying to square the alliances in my mind is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think Spider-Man even does my favorite thing where he keeps emphasizing with them, like, we are on the same team. Like, just stop shooting at me for a little bit. And we can take care of this whole situation.
Yeah.
It's fun to try and figure out. But Damon's also pissed here, writing in saying, did I seriously not get to fight Sable after getting dumped on by her goons throughout the entire game?
I was also disappointed by that. I was like, come on, no fight.
Yeah.
Come on.
Some idiot actually on this table thought that Sable was going to be the final boss.
Instead of
that,
DLC like
yeah.
she'd been announced to be.
I texted these guys before we started playing. I'm like, I haven't played anymore, but just trying to guess the final boss and how people say it's a surprise. What if it's Sable? I didn't ask it as a question. I said, it is 100% going to be Sable, and I'll cut my pinky off if it's not.
People said the last
Here you
boss was
go.
a surprise.
No, but I think people phrased, and I saw some conversation about people talking about the final act being surprising. And also, I don't really see it that much, but I heard some people talking about like, oh, you know, it kind of walks into a more political discussion, talking about the militarization of police. So I was expecting more on that front, but it's like,
What? Yeah.
I didn't
I mean,
that.
besides the
Word
fact
about
that,
that.
like at some point the police more or less becomes Sable, and it's like
That's it,
military
yeah.
checkpoints and stuff. But I don't think it ever, like it kind of does that implicitly, but I don't think it ever explicitly says, like Spider-Man never walks out and says, military police are bad guys.
Yeah.
It's
Well, they're
no
just a
good.
mercenary group, though, too. It's not, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just. I think the idea, the imagery of like checkpoints and things like that can sort of like.
Sure.
Those-
Wait, what
those-
is this, 1984?
Yeah, what is this, a video game? All these checkpoints. Doug from Burlington, Vermont says, just finished. That was wicked. Is it just me, or was that the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen? Who created the story? Marvel, Insomniac? Who's responsible for this? That's a great question.
John Paquette.
Lead writer John Paquette. Did you meet him on the cover story trip?
No, he was on vacation, but he called in. So we did like a phone call interview.
And
while
he's
we
an
were there.
Insomniac employee?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's been there for a while. Do you know? He's not like a Marvel hire or anything crazy like that?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Presumably they had some like input from Marvel, right?
I think so. Yeah, listening to I devoured every spoiler cast I could with Brian Intihar, which they're very fun. I think kind of funny. Had the best one if you're interested in checking those out. But I was shocked listening to interviews just how much of a collaboration this was. He pitches it very much as like it's this crazy 3-way collaboration between Sony, Marvel, and Insomniac. But I definitely assumed that Sony was kind of leading the show, but in his mind, it definitely seemed like Insomniac and Marvel got together,
Oh, really?
and then Sony helped like push it over the finish line to make it happen in a big way, probably with a bigger budget and all this stuff. But yeah, I was shocked. Even the way he was framing it, talking about, you know, this game, we see it in our minds as the Iron Man of Marvel gaming. Like we want to get out in a big way and kind of set the standard. And I didn't really see it as separate from Sony in that way, but I think it's more so than you think in your mind.
That's interesting. Well, I don't know. So is he thinking that Insomniac would do other non-Spider-Man related
I don't know if I
Marvel
go
projects?
that far, but it definitely, listen to those interviews, it made me think I don't know if it's 1,000% ruled out that Marvel isn't building some bigger universe. The idea that the Avengers wouldn't acknowledge Spider-Man in some way.
Cool. I mean, presumably if Marvel has all the rights to that, because it's a completely different development team, different publisher.
Right, but if Marvel's still
Activision game.
the main licensee, like maybe they would be able to tie those together in a subtle way.
Sorry, no, it's Square who has
Right.
it, right? Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I could totally see them sort of maybe after the Square thing, just sort of contracting with studios that they think are good. Like here, hey, we're gonna make one with Microsoft and Ninja Theory or something like, and like try. I think sort of their attempts to build a universe is more about like we just want to have like a consistent world where Marvel characters are in good games.
Yeah.
Right. And
That'd be great.
Kale from Colchester says, are there any games or any Marvel characters you would like to see wrapped into this universe if it is one shared thing?
I mean, I think Iron Man would be pretty cool.
Yeah, do Iron Man right finally. He hasn't really had any good video games.
But he'll be in the Avengers game,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't mean you don't want to see him solo, right?
I
Like
don't
I'd
know.
love to
I
see
wouldn't
like
want
a
it
good
wasted on
Thor
him.
game, but
Who would you pick then?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
You're asking me.
I am asking you right now.
I like Doctor Strange. I'd like to see some freaky powers, and I
I
don't
mean
think
he's
it's
gonna be in the Avengers game.
Oh wait, that hurts when you're talking about Hey, come on, man. But just on the story front overall, in terms of like, hey, who the hell wrote this thing? That is the biggest surprise. I think even on this podcast before, I was a little bit skeptical about the writing in this game. I thought it was going to be video game superhero level, which isn't a high bar in my mind. But throughout, the writing has been so much better than I thought. It's just the quips, dialogue, the emotional moments, like they hit it out of the park. Not quite, I don't think, to like a God of War level of writing, which I think might be the high water mark this year for me, but still super, super solid.
Yeah, it was really, really. I would say it's definitely above average. Did a really good bar, and like I had fun with it, and there were some cool like twists. I don't know if you want to get into the. For me,
We
like
have
there
so
was
much
a
to get into.
moment
Let's do it.
where Mary Jane, that stealth sequence in Osborn's mansion.
Yes.
Which I still wasn't a fan of the gameplay, but like that story wise, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool with Harry, and like it turns out there's more going on here than we thought with him not being in Europe.
Yes, absolutely. That is huge. A lot of people wrote in about that. Wald Chikawa writes in saying, I really enjoyed navigating Norman's apartment. Don from Albuquerque, New Mexico says, Gah! Finding that damn key in Norman Osborn's apartment drove me nuts. I had laser focus on finding a calendar or code. When I flipped the photo of Harry's mom around the first 2 times, I didn't even see the key at all. My spidey sense wasn't cutting it. And Kale says, the MJ stealth bits made me groan in general. And Kale says, I think the next game, an LA Noire style investigative dialogue mechanic would be so much better for MJ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I agree that, when she gets like the taser and like working her way out of the apartment or even in, I'm still not crazy about those sequences, but it turns out when you're just walking around unraveling a story that's interesting, like that entire sequence was, figuring out what's going on with Harry, that's all you need. And that was, I think, the strongest part for MJ throughout the entire game for
It's
me.
funny because I also took a little time to find the key, but I spent so much time just looking at random stuff in the apartment that I think the game eventually just tells you where that stuff is. Because like I spent so much time there, it's like, hey, go to this, like an objective marker popped up that, hey, it's in this room. And when I looked at the picture for the first time, it says, hey, I think something might be on the back. And I immediately flipped it around and there was the key. It was so I guess I'm surprised that like he had trouble finding the key when for me it was just like immediate of like, hey, there's a key in the back of this thing the first time I ever held it. So.
Yeah. Connor from Wyoming also writes in just saying, MJ's sequence near the end in Norman's apartment floored me, though more for the series of story revelations that she encountered. Harry, oh my God. And then Evan Filarica says, well, I can't wait for Peter to continue to mentor Miles through the use of his arachnid abilities. Nothing made me freak out more than having the game reveal that Harry was never in Europe in the first place, but rather in a preserved status in Norman's penthouse throughout the entirety of the game with a symbiote-like substance wrapped around him in order to keep him alive. That, plus the massive foreshadowing of Norman turning into Green Goblin with hints of Goblin glider, Goblin mask, helmet, which I love that Mary Jane put that on. Like, that's such a cool idea. Pumpkin bombs scattered throughout the game, and the green water casting a very sinister shadow over Norman's face leads him to believe that we're in for a very exciting follow-up to this already breathtaking game. Thank you for everything, Spidey Squad.
I mean, I always find it a little bit corny when they're like, oh, here, I'm really into this purple and green color scheme. Like, that always seems like the most obvious sort of hinting. But I do appreciate that, like, yeah, they're going maybe a slightly different direction with Harry specifically. I will say that, when the spider broke out of the containment, there was like a split second in my mind. It's like, wait, is Mary Jane gonna get bitten by a spider in this? And that was like my happiest moment of like, that would be such a huge shift for this. And then like, 10 seconds I was like, oh wait, no, it's gonna bite. Like she's gonna take it over to Miles.
Dylan
I mean,
from
that
North-
was the biggest, like, yeah, you could see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah, Dylan from North Carolina says, part of me is really disappointed that MJ was not the one bitten by the spider.
Exactly.
I know Miles has a history of being Spidey, but by the end of the game, I love MJ and thought she was a total badass.
Especially since I think it would have played into the arc of like the reason they broke up is because like I'm tired of you protecting me. So like the idea of like, okay, now I'm also a spider person, I think would have been.
And if that was her line of dialogue, then kill it.
I am also a spider
Kicks
person.
down Harry Peter's door and says, "Now I am a spider person."
Okay, we have a lot to unpack here. I loved that idea of sneaking around that place so much as MJ and then having it revealed post-credits that like she was so close to Harry. That is such a cool, unnerving
yeah.
idea.
I hadn't
She
thought
was
about
less than
that,
a foot away from Harry during that entire sequence.
I
That's so
knew there was
creepy.
somebody in that
Really?
container.
Why?
Yeah, you could like barely hear something, but it was like
Shut
it was,
What?
you couldn't like hear someone talking or anything, but it was like just a little gurgling or whatever. I was like, oh, there's someone in there.
Did you assume it was Mark Hamill? Like what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Am I the only one? Am I the only that was so stupid that during that post-credits thing, when like he puts his little hand on the tank, in a very Star Trek 2 situation or whatever, and then like the symbiote hand or whatever comes up and touches it. Did you guys all understand that was a symbiote?
I that was like my first instinct of like, wait, is there some other like did Harry at some point encounter some sort of other symbiote thing? But that's what it has to be, right?
Right. Leo, you're not that glued into lore either. Am I nuts? I thought it was like, oh, it's a weird hand. And then it wasn't until listening to the spoiler cast, like, oh, that was supposed to be a Venom tease. I see. I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. It makes sense, but it's not like explicitly laid out if you're not familiar with Spider-Man, I don't think. It was just like, oh yeah, something that really weird is going on with Harry.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get it, you're like, oh, this is kind of messed up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what should we have taken away from that, Reese? Spider-Man fan number one?
I was a little turned off by it just because I don't know, it's like so messing with the traditional lore.
Isn't that the fun,
maybe.
though? Like, I love that.
Guess I don't know. There's certain things that just turn me off, and the idea of like the Venom suit coming from. They had to do something other than what it was because Spider-Man got the Venom suit out of a vending machine, like in space. So they weren't going to probably go that route. But
Are you sure?
the fact that I don't know,
Maybe this is safer than doing what they did, honestly.
I feel like a recurring theme of this series might be sort of conflicts within the villains themselves instead of them all sort of being against Spider-Man. So I'd be interested to see if maybe they set up the next game as Harry resenting Norman and sort of that being the conflict of like the symbiote versus Green Goblin. In the next game.
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty
that's
cool.
interesting.
I guess I was a little turned off because I was like, oh, but Eddie Brock's supposed to be Venom. Like I kind of wanted that. And maybe they'll still go that way in the sequel, but
Maybe you'll fight. So it's just guaranteed that he's Venom? Does it have to be Venom, or can it just be another symbiote that has like a new name
Carnage.
or something like
it doesn't have to be
the,
Venom.
the
No.
Hob Venom or something?
Hob Venom, yeah, exactly. That's probably
The
what it is.
anti-Venom.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is cool that Green Goblin and Venom weren't really in this game, right?
Yeah.
So two of his biggest villains are still up for grabs in the sequel, which is kind of a cool setup. It's like, oh, plus Mysterio or like Kraven. Like there's a bunch of like cool villains we haven't seen yet, even
For
though
sure.
there were so many in this game.
Yeah, they have more than enough to work with for sure. Also, just that idea, I think it's people on the street who said something along the lines of, Osborn's screwed, the fact that Devil's Breath got released, like he's never going to win the next election or he'll be kicked out of office or something. So I like that idea of him getting stripped of his mayorship and kind of down on his luck and then blaming Spider-Man
Oh,
or
yeah.
however it works. Jack White, your fan from Utah, thank you, Jack White, says, did you guys notice the clues that hint at Norman Osborn knowing who Spider-Man's true identity is? Like Aunt May and Dr. Octavius, I think Norman knows who Spider-Man is. The primary clue is how involved Norman is in the life of Peter. In the franchise, Norman sees himself as a father figure to Peter and acts like one. If Aunt May and Doc Ock can figure out who Spider-Man really is, a billionaire mayor from New York City with multiple files on the masked menace who is overly involved in the life of his son's orphan friend would have figured it out too. Other clues like personal stand-down orders to Silver Sable to prevent her from killing the spider, or scenes where they cut off Mayor Osborn confronting the web-slinger, lead me to believe that Insomniac Games has a more mature, complex story to tell about the Goblin.
Sure. That's how Gwen Stacy died in the comics is Green Goblin found out, Norman found out who Peter really was Spider-Man and then went after his girlfriend.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Also, I don't know. I would imagine a push and pull is for the sequel, Doc Ock kind of, I don't know about reuniting, but like talking again to Osborn because their interactions are so good. And the idea of that final shot of Otto he knows, and now he's pissed, right? Like he knows who Spider-Man really is, and so he has this juicy secret. For dramatic purposes, he has to tell somebody who more interesting than his greatest rival, right?
Well, that was a scene I really liked in Homecoming. To compare it to that is like the Vulture found out who he was, but Peter also saved his family, and so he kind of like feels like he owes him one. It's like, no, I don't know who he is, but he has that secret which could come up at any time. Like he has that trick card, he could play.
Yeah, I guess it's that same thing. Yeah.
And with this, I don't know that Doc Ock has the same like motivation to keep it a secret. So it could kind of go any direction for a sequel. I'm kind of curious to see like, will he keep it a secret?
Yeah, that scene in particular, I think, was really well done. Of him like sort of bouncing between sort of pleading and sort of like blackmailing him, and then like Spider-Man immediately saying like, "Well, you can do whatever you want, man. I'm not gonna gonna let you do that to me." Yes. Like if you want to tell people, like go for it.
Right.
Like, it's a really good scene.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that entire sequence was incredible, and I think it speaks volumes. The amount of email we got specifically about Doc Ock, like people love that Doc Ock storyline and his voice acting and implementation throughout the game.
I thought it was a cool portrayal of that character.
Oh, good. Yeah. And you know everything.
That's right. Period.
Real quick, maybe before we get to all that Doc Ock stuff, or we can reverse a little bit, what do you guys think about Lee and Mr. Negative's final boss fight and stuff? We haven't really addressed that yet.
I'm happy they brought him back. I thought, last episode I said, like, I was kind of disappointed that they sort of sidelined him for for Doc Ock, but I like that he comes back and has a pretty interesting last boss fight. Yeah, like the fight isn't like my favorite, but
it's basically just waiting for Triangle to pop up.
Yeah, but it's the most forgettable of the third act.
Yeah,
oh, really?
But I think
I actually like that fight.
It's an interesting send off for the character. Like this is the boss fight, like that. Even if it's not the best one, I feel like this is the boss fight he deserved in terms of like giving him a big finale versus the one before that.
Yeah. Okay. Joseph de Maria has a couple thoughts. To go back up just a little bit more, he says, "Hey, when you're playing as MJ infiltrating Norman's penthouse, a couple things caught my eye. First is how the spiders, at least the ones that crawled on MJ, were numbered. I immediately pictured Norman getting a bunch of scientists together and trying to label all these spiders, and how eventually the spiders would molt off their skin and no longer be numbered. More importantly, however, there is no
They're tattoos."
Well, the one that bites him out, it has like a U on it, right? Did I see that correctly? Is that like an Ultimate reference?
It used to be a 10, and it just molted off.
Oh, I see.
Actually, I don't know, because I think they were numbered in the Ultimate Comics.
Okay.
Too. So, but I don't know why it's a U.
I think it was a number. Did we all say a U?
I saw a
number.
Well,
I
U
don't
is a
recall.
number in some ways.
Oh, sure.
It's like a Roman thing. Anyways, this person says, more importantly, however, there is no toilet in Norman's bathroom. Now, admittedly, there is a toilet in Harry's bathroom in the apartment, but why would there not be one in Norman's? Who builds a bathroom without a toilet?
Well, if you examine the environment, you can find poop all over the floor.
Sorry, Norman, I gotta wake you up. I gotta use your bathroom again.
It's like a Murphy bed. You gotta pull it out.
Oh, I see. Little goblin pellets.
Murphy toilet.
Okay, Joseph really gets to it, though, saying, overall, this is really the best story in any Marvel video game. Probably true. When I heard that Martin Lee escaped after attacking Oscorp, I thought there'd be a big moment during the final fight that Martin would show up and help Peter beat Doc Ock. I know he's a villain, but Insomniac said they took some liberties, and I was hoping that would be one of them. Did you guys think about that? Or is it just like, Mr. Negative's defeated, goodbye?
No, I thought he was done.
Yeah. There was a lot of confusion, which is surprising to me. That mirrored James from Dublin here is saying, hey, so when the City Hall bombing takes place, we're going back to Act 1 for this, I'm sorry. And Peter's Spidey sense, trademark, goes off. He turns around to see what's setting it off. He spots a guy getting out of a car while turning into a demon. Then, still in Peter's point of view, the camera pans to the left to reveal Martin Lee turning negative. The camera just whip pans right again to focus on a third guy on the City Hall steps. There's no reaction shot from Peter, no audio line, no change of music. The camera doesn't even focus on Lee for literally more than 2 seconds. It happened so fast that I genuinely wasn't even certain it was him, because surely the game wouldn't skip over such a significant reveal. Then after all the cutscenes are said and done, there's a phone call between Peter and MJ, and they're discussing the plan of action for taking Lee down. Was there a missing scene? What's happening here? Other people wrote in about that, about like, when did they reveal that Lee was negative? What's happening?
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird too. I don't know, comic fans obviously knew he was Mr. Negative, but the characters, I was like, how did they find out it was him? Like, you would think they would have had a conversation like, holy crap, he's Mr. Negative, like a recognition of that.
Right, and I wonder if it's connected maybe, he talks about, was there a cut scene? I'm sure it was reworked 10 Ways to Sunday and stuff, but I wonder if it is connected to the fact that in the E3 demo, remember, the reveal is through that helicopter window. Remember? And that might be a more momentous thing that they then tweaked in some way, but there's some remnant in there of a change of the reveal. But Dan Dinkler, Mr. Dinkler, says, "You'll never believe this,
Try me.
Or will I?
but I watched Sinister 2 the same
Don't believe
night."
it. Nope.
I don't know. I watched Sinister 2 the same night as playing the Mary Jane segment where she watches that disturbing video of Lee getting his powers. Needless to say, it freaked me out. Anybody else think that was scary? I don't know what Sinister 2 is.
I don't know what that is either.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I don't
Is
believe
that
him.
from the
I don't think
producers
it's
of
real.
Insidious?
I'll say yes. That sounds about right. I don't know anything about that. But did you guys find that scene scary? When Lee's getting his powers and killing his parents and all that stuff?
That I found a little. It was shocking when his parents like blew up into goop.
Yeah.
Right.
I found that more shocking than like the bombing earlier or anything.
Yeah,
It's like,
I found it shocking
why?
that Osborne 2 would have that VHS just sitting there ready to hit play. Gotta watch this one again.
In case
Freeze
somebody wants to
framing through
incriminate
it.
me later.
Sinister 2 is a kind of weirdo horror movie.
Oh.
So
from the producers of Insidious.
that's right.
Isn't it weird though that I think it was in the last episode, I think I made a joke talking about Mary Jane's Sinister 2 being broken bottles and cardboard. And I said the word Sinister 2 as a joke.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Well,
Freak
geez.
out, you guys. Hazal Mohammed, friend of the show, says, "Hey, I'm still unsure about the Otto-Lee connection established in Act 2, since Otto's in the room with Norman when Lee accidentally kills his parents with his powers. There's a part in Otto's hideout where Lee thanks Otto for working on a cure for Lee's condition. So maybe that's enough severance for causing Lee to kill his parents? It still feels tenuous. Like, why does he blame Osborne so much? But Otto's like, you're cool, man. I'll work kind of alongside you."
I hadn't thought of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe there's more details there that we didn't
I
quite
assume
see.
Otto could have been on the side of, well, I hate Norman too. Come on, I didn't have anything to do with
or
that.
it's
Let's
like,
get
I feel
Norman.
bad for you.
Yeah.
Was Otto there at the time?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Oh, okay. I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
Apparently
seeing
he's
that.
in the background or something.
Yeah.
I didn't see it either. But and then Hazal also says, "Otto having a hideout not known to Peter also feels tenuous because that means Otto's always been a bad egg since he's been planning this event before the neural chip causes him to go mad, which makes the hallucination sequence between Peter and Otto ring hollow since we as the player are being told that Otto's never been the good man that Peter's currently attempting to rectify while under Scorpion's venom. But maybe that's just me.
I wish that was the story. I wish the neural chip was not even a part of it.
Same here.
Yeah, I wish he
He
was
was
just
secretly bad the whole time.
yeah, or like he had these motivations that turned him bad, and
Well-
the neural chip
Yeah.
just like weakens that.
Do you think
to
that the
me.
hideout proves that or helps that
Yeah.
theory?
First, certainly, yeah.
Okay. Because I was still confused about, like, he pulled the chip out at the end, but it wasn't like the night and day cartoon light switch
Oh,
flipping
yeah.
on
It's not
and
like he
off.
was immediately. Yeah, exactly.
So there is still some evil in his heart, no matter
I mean,
what.
do you think that he used the chip as an excuse to, like, because it feels like they do imply, but I wonder if, like, maybe Osborne was just sort of blaming that on the idea. Like, if he was just sort of saying, it's the chip that's making me do it. But actually,
Yeah.
I already know that I'm bad.
I would be into that, but yeah, like the dramatically taking the chip out makes it certainly
Yeah.
feel like the story is not trying to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he also says the final battle between Peter and Otto was okay, but I did dig the reveal that Otto knew that Peter was Spider-Man, since you can hear him confirm the fact while Peter is hallucinating while under Scorpion's venom. It's uttered twice. It was a neat touch for those paying attention during that sequence. So when it comes up during the final battle, it's not as big of a surprise as it could be, but actually a hidden fear of Peter. I like that idea too, that like, even though Peter acts shocked, he's like, you know, and he was so mad that the hallucination tips a little bit or hints that in Peter's mind he suspects that he actually knows.
Yeah.
That's a fun idea.
I will say that, like, gameplay wise, that I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to reconcile that, like, here's someone who's been a scientist most of his life, doesn't look like he, like, you know, like is just like a bodybuilder or anything. For the number of punches that guy took was just kind of a little high. Than
No,
yeah.
the robot arms
must have been
change
high.
your skin
Makes it
makeup
tougher.
or something. But on that, on the hallucination thing, I did like, in theory, even though it feels, and a lot of people wrote in about this, obviously, that it feels very Scarecrow. I did like the idea of it revealing a little bit more. Like, I like Otto has a couple good lines where he's screaming. He goes, "You are the poison, Peter. Everything you touch suffers." And then there's that moment where he's like, "I bet your Uncle Ben jumped in front of the bullet." He's like, "I would have jumped in front of the bullet if I was Uncle Ben." And then Spider-Man
Oh,
has
I
some.
missed that. That's wow. That's
It's cool.
deep,
And Spider-Man
man.
has some line where he said, he said, "I'd rather oh, I'm sorry, that's Scorpion that says that." Because then Spider-Man says, "I think I'd rather fight the real Scorpion than my subconscious." Like,
Oh,
fun
that's
idea.
a good line.
yeah.
I don't know if I didn't like that hallucination scene that much because it did feel. I know we talked about this earlier, and I said it wasn't that much like Arkham, but
Yes.
this scene in particular did feel a bit like Arkham to me, and I
And
was like,
including like the Lee fight, because that also has like the trippy thing. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a lot of weird abstract environments, which normally I'm down for, but it's surprising in Act 3 to come swinging in with all these.
yeah, maybe just they needed one of them.
Although the giant arms coming through the background was really sweet.
That was cool.
That looked really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Somebody had a very good point, and it went a little something like this. This is Nathan saying, if Spider-Man is still able to navigate the city lab during this hallucination, how is he fighting a boss fight and not destroying the lab? Like, where was he physically when he was
That's a good
fighting that
point.
boss?
It would have been cool if he came to and like the lab was just destroyed.
Half of New York was destroyed. But this
He's
is
beating the crap out of some homeless dude.
this is Nathan's best point, though. He says, why would anyone at Insomniac create a hallucination level with Spider-Man and use Scorpion instead of Mysterio?
Yeah, I
They
thought
didn't have the
that's
budget
weird.
to do both, man.
Or
couldn't
they
put
just
Mysterio
didn't
in
have
this
him
game.
in the game. I guess I don't know.
But they hinted that he already fought Mysterio. I would
Yeah.
bet. I mean, Brian Intihar has said, like, hey, we had to cut a lot out of this game. A lot of bosses had to go. I bet that at least maybe like this tech or some of the environment concept art was originally tied to Mysterio. It has to be. It
That would
feels,
make a lot of sense.
It
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because just the idea of like, oh, it's some poison. Now
Because
everything's
that's
weird.
Yeah, Scorpion's never. He has a poison sting, but it's never like made hallucinations. You know.
Right. Thomas Wilson said it reminded him a lot of Infinity War and some of the trippy stuff of Infinity War, seeing like inside Thanos' mind and stuff. And James Hicks, this. Relax, Leo. Relax. James, you're safe. You're safe. You can't come through your earbuds. I promise. No. James Hicks writes in. The nerve of this guy.
Let's hear it.
He says, the part where Scorpion poisons Spider-Man and he hallucinates the green flood around New York City surely has to be a PS1 reference, right?
That's what I was reminded of for sure.
Oh, really?
Was that original game? Yeah.
What's the idea? Because it's all like foggy down there and you can't go down? Or what's the...
Yeah. It's just covered in fog.
Okay, that's cool. Grim Feather says the Streets of Poison mission stand
It's not
out...
green though.
Yeah, I looked at it too. It wasn't green. Stand out as a highlight of Act 3 for me. I usually don't enjoy dream sequences in games, but the active role the player takes in the sequence and the platforming-esque gameplay kept me engaged in the exposition and made Spidey's quest to stop Otto feel even more personal. It was kind of like right before the finale, a nice reminder of kind of walking through the relationship. Just in case, I'd imagine you had done a bunch of side quests of, hey, here's who Otto was, just to remind
Yeah.
you a
Remember,
little bit.
you liked him.
Here's how you parkour, by the way. You hold R2 and it helps you run across platforms. That was weird. That's a video game problem, but I was like, man, I wish I wasn't saying this right now.
Right.
This is just taking me out of it.
Although
Or at least give me a few seconds to try it on my own before you tell me to do it.
Although I was trying to swing, I think I might be that idiot that needed that help because I forgot about the part where you have to like hold L2 to like aim specifically.
Oh, sure.
I just did that so few times that I died several times in that sequence, not knowing
Oh,
that I
really?
had to change it up.
Alright.
Because
Thanks
there's a
for
prompt on
ruining
the
it for
screen, but I can
everybody.
ignore it, I guess. Here's a great question. Cade Marks from Chandler, Arizona says, hey, in the conversation immediately following the end of Act 2, Spider-Man and Yuri talk on the phone about how Spider-Man left the hospital before he had finished healing. This struck me as strange because how could he be treated in the hospital without his suit being removed?
Yeah.
And does that mean Yuri knows his identity? They never reference this in conversation or later in the game. Then later in Act 3, when Peter is brought back to Feast to have his injuries treated, they never remove his suit. This detail really bothered me.
I like the idea of someone at a hospital like writing patient names Spider-Man.
They had the outfit where he's like in his underwear with
Yeah.
the mask on. They could have used that at the very least.
Yeah, just put that model in there.
I don't know. It would have been kind of fun to like have, even if you don't want to like model the hospital and all that, have like a shot of him in like in a gown or something with his mask still on, just to be like acknowledged, like, all right, we respected his identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like when they were bringing him into Feast, I felt like that scene was coming of like, do we remove his mask or like?
Yep.
I thought that was coming, and they just completely sort of like
100%.
sidestepped that conversation.
It would have been a cool moment to see them like
like they
grapple
all
with that.
kind of quietly agreeing of like, nah, let's not do it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Let's just try and shove like respirators like up his little nose in the suit.
Yeah.
I love that scene right before it though. I thought that animation was incredible of just like Doc Ock beating the crap out of Spider-Man. That's like some of the most impactful animation of the game. Of even though it was a cutscene, just holy God, is he getting the crap beat out of him? There's like a pool of blood underneath him afterwards. It was wild
Yeah.
looking.
It was cool looking. That was close to when Miles got bit, right?
No,
No, it wasn't?
That's towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah,
For
this
some
was
reason, I was
over
thinking
before
like,
that.
oh my gosh, I wonder if he's going to be out of commission for a while, and then Miles is going to jump in.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, maybe you'd seen the spider at that point, so maybe
I think
that's why
you
you
had.
thought of
You're
it.
like, all right,
Yeah.
the spider bites come in, blah blah blah.
One of the most impactful moments for me emotionally, which was immediately undercut by them not taking the suit off and just like doing a quick fade to black, and then he was back up and running around. But I love that scene when MJ ran into Feast and saw him like on the table, like
Yeah.
covered in blood, and she has the best delivery where she just goes like, "Oh my God." That's all she says, and it's such an amazing performance. Just this little line. That's all she had to say, And I was like, oh, this is the scene where I'm going to be destroyed. And then, nope, fade to black. Everything's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
let's
could
move
have
on.
milked you a little bit more. Come on, guys.
Milk me.
Milk me.
Hey,
Like
video
a
game.
Mother spider. There was another scene with right after Miles goes and gets to the water and he comes back and they're having a heart-to-heart and then Spider-Man leaves and he's like, wait, are you Spider-Man's girlfriend? And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. I was like, oh, that's kind of a fun little exchange.
It's also
Right.
weird that Miles doesn't recognize Peter's voice.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a big recurring theme is what the hell is wrong with Miles? Surely everybody knows because it certainly seems like everybody knows
Yeah.
a series of back-to-back scenes of Spider-Man. You knew? How is it possible? You knew too? I thought I was being pretty hidden and clever. Do you guys want to talk about Miles? Too bad. Rag from
No.
Rag from Braintree, England.
Okay. What?
England. Braintree.
Is that a
Come
real
on.
place?
I don't know. Is that a reference to Isaac Newton? Because that apple fell on him and then he
Oh, yeah.
he used his
it's
brain
gotta
under
be,
the
right?
tree. He says, hey, GI crew, just a really quick observation. I'm sure you noticed anyways. Back in part 1 of the game club, Reeves mentioned that Miles' power include camouflaging himself and paralyzing people temporarily. Well, when MJ is going through Norman's secret lab, if you interact with the spider cages, she mentions how the labels on them say optical camouflage and bioelectrokinesis. Now, this is obviously your usual dose of fake scientific mumbo-jumbo, but it definitely sounds like Miles' power. And sure enough, he was bitten by one of those spiders.
That's a good detail.
Yeah, Alex from Salt Lake City says, Mary sneaks into Oscorp, finds a hidden room, bumps into a glass container of spiders. They crawl all over her, so she stands to brush them off. One remains without her knowing. The spider then survives and hangs on as MJ jumps off a building, gets saved by Peter, and makes it all the way to Feast, where it lands on a conveniently placed box that's picked up by Miles. And the moment he picks up the box, spider bite.
I also thought it was a little weird. I thought maybe the spider should have like crawled into a case or something she had, and then it was trapped in the case.
Her
and, like,
mouth.
Yeah, or her mouth.
Without her noticing.
Oh, a spider! Shove it in my mouth. For
Oh,
a
wait, hold
minute.
on. Let me pick it out of my teeth.
That's what's so weird about that sequence is it's like such a like specific series of hoops it's jumping through to get to Miles
Yeah.
being bitten, which is the obvious thing that we know is going to happen.
Right.
I mean, couldn't they have worked some other way for the story for Miles to have just been there or something? I don't know.
Miles did that stealth sequence.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, no, it would have to be MJ because of the Harry connection. Because she was like, "Oh my God, Harry, where's Miles?" You'd be like, "Who's this
Well,
Harry?"
maybe
twerp?"
have them both there. I don't know.
But you can't control both at once.
That's a good point.
And even on a practical level, there's no way Mary Jane would have not noticed there was a spider on her for that long.
giant
and
spider.
tried to.
Has she ever been bit?
Not that I know of him in like the main continuity of the series.
Really?
She did
Wow.
get spider powers once when like everybody in New York got spider powers. But you know, that's all.
That little weird thing that
That's
happened.
all.
But like you could have had like Miles and Mary Jane there, and then Miles could have got bitten and then maybe fainted or something. And then Mary Jane was like, "Oh, I got to deal with this and this," and like there's
Yeah.
a bunch of like Sable guys.
Throw him
coming
off
in
the
at
building
me.
too.
Yeah,
You're welcome
and
to
then-
just cut this part of the podcast and send it to Insomniac as your job
Yeah,
application.
come on, Brian.
Yeah. Don't you
I'm
understand?
an
I'm saying
ideas
these
guy.
sentences. Why weren't they doing
Why
it?
aren't these in the game? I do like when people do that online. I'm like, come on, guys, you didn't make the game.
Right. Do you want to have a comment for yourself then?
Come on, dude. Come on.
This curly haired dude is annoying.
I thought that was a bold
Blowhard.
move, and I didn't really understand where MJ was going when she's like, "Where are you, Peter? I need you. There's people with guns on me on the roof. I'm gonna jump for it." And Spider-Man's very clearly like, "No, don't do it. I'm not quite there
Yeah.
yet." She's like, "See ya," and she goes for it. And
You're
then he-
up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he catches her, which is very sweet and all that stuff because they have the cute little line where it's
I
like,
would have
"You're
liked
crazy.
to have seen
You're
her
amazing."
hit the pavement.
Yeah.
And then Peter was like, "No."
But he clearly said he wasn't ready, and she went for
That's
it. It's like,
true.
that actually got me just on the tension level. Like, he said it. He said it, and you weren't listening. Is it going to be a nightmare?
It
kill
reminded
Mary
me of
Jane
Back
right
to the
now.
Future too. I think
Yeah,
that's the first time
Stacy.
I ever saw that. Like a dude up against a wall and like, "Oh, I got to jump off this building now."
Yes. And then the DeLorean picked MJ up, which I thought was a
That's
bold
what I was
move.
hoping for. Yeah.
What's better than that? That's
The
just the
DeLorean?
best
Oh.
thing you can do in fiction is have somebody jump off a building and then slowly rise up.
And they
Yeah.
come back. It's really good. It was really good.
In fact, at my funeral, just insist on bringing like a DVD player and a huge projector screen, and then it's just that 5-second clip from Back to the Future 2 of when Marty rises up. Over
Oh,
the
I thought you were going to tell us to throw your coffin off a building and then raise it back up.
And no, better yet, then also just for fun, fill my coffin full of spiders and then turn it into an open casket halfway through.
I had this is a little off topic.
Arms spring out doing this thing.
I had a
Some
friend
prop.
that was like, he wanted to rig up his coffin so that like when people leaned in to like look at the body, there was like a lever they would press on and the body would start to sit up.
And then it would spit puke out of
Yeah,
its
that's
mouth.
right.
Yeah.
lot of
I'm
fun to be
alive.
had.
I'm alive.
Don't let them bury me.
I like the idea of him recording his VO line for post-death saying, I'm alive, and he can't get the performance right. So it just sounds like this hollow, I'm alive. It's like, no, this is the one time you're going through all this effort. Just nail this one line. All right, that's fun. Paul from Dublin, Ireland here. He says, hey, I love the game despite some serious flaws. Example, the last wave of a Sable base, and there's one bad guy left I can't find. Turns out he's stuck in a container. Luckily, I had skill points in the bank because I upgraded my ground pound and just spammed that until he was knocked out. Otherwise, I've been so frustrated. That's a recurring theme. A lot of people wrote in with bugs. Like, I had a fair amount going through. Weird stuff where the rhino would get stuck and, like, walk in place. But a lot of people wrote in and said they had a lot of problems with bugs, which was surprising. But that's not where he's going with this. He says, I want to be careful here, which is important to stress, because I'm all for powerful women being portrayed in the world.
Oh.
But Peter's 100,000 correct 100,000% correct trying to keep MJ out of danger. I'm blowing it. He is 1,000. Peter's right trying to save MJ. Because the men she's sneaking around are terrorists with guns that blew up City Hall in New York. And because she has moxie, she gets annoyed at Peter at the point of breaking up with him because he doesn't want her to get hurt by terrorists. When she gets caught and cowers in fear, rightly so, these men are going to mercilessly kill her. The next extent of her ability to react is her just saying, no, please, like in the game over screen. He's like, this isn't a men versus women issue. This is a man with spider powers going up against bad guys, trying to stop his insane girlfriend from taking on terrorists with absolutely no training whatsoever.
I mean, I can totally see that. It's just like, I think that it is less about like that than I think it is sort of, if it's part of a running theme of like, you always sort of like, I mean, it's implied that it's been a running theme with them of like Peter telling her not to do stuff
In less extreme situations.
Right. And then like her saying like, no, like I want to do this despite the fact that you've been telling me this forever. So I can see her making that leap. But like logically, yes, of course he's right to like not want her to go near, you know, people with guns all the time, like a paramilitary group.
And it's this big concession at the end of like, okay, you can go invade Osborn's tower. And he seems to be understanding of like, go for it. But I wish there's even more of him really having to wrestle with that. Because
He's like,
he's just sending his girlfriend to die at that point. Like, come on, man.
Also, why wasn't he ready? He knew she was coming. He could have been there, perched, ready to go as soon as she was in the building.
Yeah, to start that mission, you swing up to 2 blocks away, and I guess he's just sitting there the whole time.
He's trying to finish a pizza real quick. I got. Come on, be cool. What'd you guys
Oh,
think?
it's so greasy.
No one wrote in about it, but what about that like burning apartment scene? Or I guess it's Feast.
Burning apartment scene. Oh.
Like the other Feast, when that gets burned down, and then it gets to that point where like Miles and MJ save Peter, and Spider-Man seems surprisingly shook by all that. Like, I could have died.
If I hadn't sleep shot that web.
I was confused because don't you go back to Feast after that and it's not burned down?
It's the Feast in Harlem, I think they said. It's like this weird northern feast.
Oh, weird.
The northern feast.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by I like the beat narratively. I like Peter getting freaked out. But at the same time, it's like, man, you've gone up against some pretty crazy things so far in the game. Like a burning building, that seems doable.
Yeah.
I know you have to like hold the platform up so they don't die and stuff, but you've done worse.
I read it more as him being sort of impacted by the fact that it's happening sort of close, like basically literally hitting close to home of like, man, like people I care about could have died, and also me, but
yeah, I guess you're right.
that's sort of more, I read it less about his own personal thing but more about like it hitting him that this is starting to impact people around him.
Yeah, I can dig it. Real quick, here's an interesting thought from Charles Hudman saying, after I beat the game, I realized I got tricked. I was tricked into buying a Superman game. It makes sense. Mary Jane becoming an investigative reporter like Lois Lane, Peter ignoring his home life due to feeling obligated to become Spider-Man, the I can't save everyone line that Peter says. Peter's such a positive force in New York. Everyone loves him and sees him as a symbol of hope. It seems as if Insomniac borrowed heavily from from Superman.
They definitely borrowed heavily from Spider-Man as well.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I noticed that.
Did you think about the Superman thing at all?
No.
Not
really.
not really.
Okay.
Sure, I can see some
I
parallels.
can see the
but yeah, I mean you can make parallels to Batman. He's a superhero. They're both superheroes.
Relax,
So like
dude.
those
Just-
themes are there. Like,
just unwind
what
a
is he
little
talking
bit.
about?
He also kind of seemed like a spider to me in some of the ways that he was.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
interacting with the
got
world.
that.
I was
but-
thinking of things that spiders can do, and then comparing it to him, and like
what
they
he can
matched
do?
up really
It
well.
seems like he can
This
do
kind
whatever.
soul wrote into podcast@GameInformer.com, and you're ridiculing them for their interesting thought. What about like MJ being a reporter? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I will make the concession that it does seem like Mary Jane is quite a bit like Lois Lane.
Okay. Great. So shut the hell up, curly haired. Yeah.
Great email.
Come on, dude.
Tyler from Greenwood, Indiana, says, hey, in the first part of the game club, I emailed about how much I enjoyed the little minigame puzzles in Dr. Octavius' lab. Boy, was I rewarded. Knowing that Peter essentially helps create Doc Ock by completing his research is what makes this game so damn good. Insomniac took something like throwaway little puzzles and interwove them into a story to actually give you the player, a grander sense of accomplishment and meaning. This attention to detail is a rarity, and Insomniac really knocked it out of the park. I guess that is a cool idea.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Angie and Neji from Richmond, Virginia says the way they portrayed Doc Ock was genius. I almost thought he was going to team up with Spidey to take on Norman in the end.
Huh.
When Doc Ock was like holding Norman Osborn over the edge and he let him go, I feel like Doc Ock would have regretted that the next morning. Like, I could have tortured him more. I really.
Yeah.
That's why.
would've
Yeah, that's why he
Turning away
Yeah.
after dropping, you don't even want to see this guy die.
This is your entire mission. You've gone through so much effort just to take down this dude,
yeah.
and then that's it.
You don't take any joy in his
I
death.
mean-
Dude. Well, I'm done now.
I don't remember what he said. But
I'm
he
bored.
Was, he was kind of like digging into him a little bit, right? Osborne was, and so like it made sense that he dropped him.
Right. Yeah. I think. Yeah. He totally was insulting him. Like, you've never been that smart. I think he said something
So
along
like,
those
well,
lines.
screw you, dude.
But the screw you, dude. Basically having the McGruber "F you, dude" moment at the end, but like without the sweet act of vengeance. He's gone through so much work.
Whoa, isn't that revenge? Like killing the guy? Like, that's kind of messed
It seems
up.
like you wanted to torture him or something.
All right.
I felt disconnected. And maybe I didn't walk around on the street level enough in Act 3 or something, but the idea of Devil's Breath and the entire city being infected with this disease, I guess it didn't really hit me that hard, or didn't really think about it too much. It was like, okay, Aunt May coughed blood. There are a couple sequences of her like helping people in Feast, but did you guys really connect with like the Devil's Breath infecting the entire city storyline?
They built it up so much, and then you like barely see any consequences from it, I feel like.
Outside of the big one with Aunt May, but yeah.
Right.
I feel like when May started getting sick, I was like, wait, what is going on? Oh, right.
Yeah.
They did that whole thing.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
what
so
else
confused
would
about-
you have liked to see?
I don't know. Like
Everybody in the
gurneys.
city turning into mutants that I fight.
Yeah, like good video game. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just didn't really feel it. I feel like I'm with Serial. I was reminded every once in a while, like, oh yeah, I guess there's a disease, and somehow that helps get back at Osborn and Doc Ock, even though he only wants to kill this one person. Really, he's
That
just
was
like,
the weird thing. It seemed like it was a political move to like, all right, I'm releasing Devil's Breath, and then people will blame Osborne for this. But I didn't quite understand the connection there.
yeah.
I've thrown up a thing on WikiLeaks that you can read about how I've totally exposed Norman.
There it is. Pat from Ireland. A lot of Ireland here.
Okay.
It's green, like the Green Goblin.
It's a long
It's a
podcast.
country.
Yeah. It's a classic song from Serial. It's a country. All right, I just wanted to reference one of the revelations in Act 3 that addresses some of your misgivings about Doc Ock and the Sinister Six supplanting Mr. Negative as the big bad. While the exposition dump in Doc Ock's lair might seem a bit too convenient and reinforces your fears that the character turn was shoehorned in, I argue that the game offers up the idea that the good doctor was this way long before he dons the arms. This is similar to an email from before. But every time I was in his office throughout the game, I wondered what that blueprint on the largest board on the back of the room was. It just looked like an innocuous tech design, but the revelation that this was the blueprint for the raft, coupled with his involvement in the experiment that created Mr. Negative, lends credence to the idea that Otto's morals were sketchy in general and that his warm exterior was just a facade. So he helped people break out of the raft because he knew it from that early on? Is that the idea? I found myself reflecting on this a lot in Act 3 as the game took the time to challenge the idea that his turn could be explained away by the arms causing a change in personality. Sure, the twist was telegraphed plenty of times, but the strength of the performances in the game made me love the Doc and desperately want to explain away his villainy via some gamma rays ass science. The fact that I couldn't cling to the notion, it was forced to wrestle with the idea that the Doc had a darker side that manipulated Peter is a triumph of the game's characterization, in my opinion.
So he didn't buy into the chip theory.
I guess not. Yeah, he's anti-chip theory.
Well, I know like sometimes I pop a box of Pringles and eat them, and I just like gorge myself on those
Right.
chips, and so chips sometimes make me do bad things too. So
Bad jokes. Stephen Olulu Nike says, hey, I found Dr. Octavius' arc was extremely interesting because watching the last game club, I could see that you were just as confused as I was trying to understand why exactly Otto became Doc Ock It was at the end when Doc Ock is caught and he tries to manipulate Peter in that instance to let him go and work with him again. That's when I realized his true villainy was in manipulating Peter to help him, knowing that he could barely do his work without Peter. I then remembered the voice note that you pick up in the lab towards the beginning where Doc Ock is enamored by how natural Peter is in his understanding of complex science and how Doc Ock did not see Peter as an assistant but a partner. I also thought the part where he sees Peter fixing the suit, and I realized that he must have known then that Peter is Spider-Man. The heartbreaking Peter's reaction when he realizes that Doc Ock has tried to fully kill him multiple times was devastating, because he genuinely thought Doc Ock didn't know he was Spider-Man. But yeah, just the manipulation level throughout the entire game, I think, is an interesting layer of villainy.
Yeah,
In
like
my
that.
mind, I guess I didn't quite feel it, although I thought the performance was awesome when Spider-Man was screaming like, you knew, and he was so pissed. Because in my mind, it's like, isn't he slightly better? Because he knew all these connections to Peter, and he wasn't going out and like ripping MJ limb for limb or like,
Yeah.
torturing anybody around
That's a good
him.
point.
So it's for him
Yeah.
to be so pissed about it. It's like, it's almost a positive, isn't it?
I mean, what, he tried to blow him up that one time, I guess, right?
Right.
I guess he beat him up, but he didn't kill him. That one time he like did really beat him up really bad.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it seemed there was possibly some restraint there.
Yeah. Could have been worse. Doc Ock, not that bad, I think is the conclusion
Yeah, I mean,
here.
come
Yeah.
on. What's the big deal? I dress up as him for Halloween.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's not a terrorist in my
Oh,
book.
dude, that's not cool.
Not cool, dude. Mark V writes in and says, hey, Game Club. Ready?
Hello. Happy birthday.
It seems silly, but the part I can't get out of my mind is when Peter decides to make the anti-Doc Ock suit and does so in what appears to be mere minutes. Initially, I was completely pulled out of the game when this happened. What? No suit building montage? No believable passage of time? It must have been an arduous process. But then I realized something. I'd been making new suits throughout the entire game, each one taking literal seconds.
I mean,
Yeah.
like that's one thing. Like, because video games play with time really strangely. But like in that cutscene, it felt like I wasn't sure why he did it or what that suit was supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
what specifically about that suit made
Yes.
it anti-Doc Ock? Besides
That's
the fact that it
brilliant,
sort of
yeah.
looked like it had the color scheme of his claws.
He'd be
or whatever.
confused. He would think he's fighting one of
Wait,
his own claws.
is that me?
Also, as he got beat up and those pieces fell off, he had his other suit on underneath it, which I thought was a little weird.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really cold. I need to make
Yeah.
another layer for my
And then
suit.
he had Spider-Punk underneath that suit. You can
Yeah.
see it's very strategic.
And
Underneath
his underwear.
skin, he has Spider-Man underwear. Yeah.
That montage was funny when he was making the suit because it was like panning over the drawings and then fading the drawings and then it did it again and then he had the suit and it was like exactly my who's winning E3 montage of me doing calculations that I did in 5 minutes.
Wait a minute.
Then he did, and then he tried to jump on a skateboard and fell.
Yeah, that
Also,
was right.
I didn't think that suit was that cool looking for like
Oh, I
that
thought it
being
was
like
cool.
the final. I mean,
It's
it was
fine.
fine, but it's look. You have like one of the most iconic looking characters of all time.
Where?
Like,
Who?
It's hard to like beat Spider-Man's classic suit, right?
Right. So he just
like,
should have put on the classic suit.
I don't know. Like
I'm going
to
old
make a new
school.
suit to be like, all right, look how cool this is now.
Right. And especially like its ultimate power was what, to like refill your gadgets? I was like,
It didn't even
okay.
seem as good as like some of the other stuff I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the two sequences of the fight, like the two stages of the fight for Doc Ock?
I had a little trouble with the first one, but that's just because I was being dumb and didn't notice there were like points outside the rim of the arena that you can climb on. But after that,
Right.
it seemed
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it felt pretty in line with the rest of those boss fights in
Yeah.
terms of like you're kind of just waiting for the moment where you can press triangle.
Yeah.
But that second fight I thought was like interesting.
I thought it was cool the idea that he couldn't use his webs anymore
Yeah.
and just go
Yeah.
in and punch him in the face. Like any
Yeah.
game that just ends with brawling and beating the crap out of a bad dude with your fist. That's
Yeah.
And on the side of the building was cool.
Yeah, the perspective angle for sure. I thought it looked just incredible. The music was great.
I'd be
was well
curious
done.
to see if you can even fail that because I think like that would be one of those things where it's like it's a really cool set piece, but I think if you fail it once, it kind of like saps all the power out of it. I'm like,
Ragdoll off the building.
yeah,
I wanted to see. I thought it was cool, conceptually really cool looking. I wanted to see a little bit more variety to the combat because it was kind of like the same combo over and over again.
yeah.
I wanted to see him maybe rip off another arm or like some sense of progression going on throughout that.
Yeah.
Even when you're fighting him on top of the building, the first time you do that combo and take him out, like that looks cool, but then you do it like 3 or 4 more times and just kind of loses some of its emphasis when it's the same exact animation every time.
Right, right. And by the way, I'm just noticing in my notes that apparently there's a line that I forgot about where Doc Ock says, I will cure the city after I bring down Osborn. But that's like after he thought that he
See?
through him off
He's
the...
not a bad guy.
I know, it's just a little confusing. Let's see. Steve Barfoot from Naugatuck, Connecticut says, hey, GI Crew, the last cutscene really cemented my love for Peter and Octavius' voice acting. Hear the cracks in Peter's voice while going against Doc Ock was gut-wrenching because of how much he looked up to Otto. I loved how they gave Otto an almost Walter White-esque background with his relationship to Norman and Oscorp. He made their feud believable. Also, the Rocky joke between Electro and Spidey was probably the best joke in the game. We didn't mention
the
it, though.
Adrian one, yeah.
Right, and then he's like, no one gets my jokes. Then Electro's like, I will crush you. Wasn't he? He's like, hey, you got it. All right.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that's good.
I guess Brian Intihar, the creative director, along with Bill Roseman, the Marvel representative, they both share Rocky as one of their favorite films. And so
Oh,
that was
really?
a reference to that.
Thank you for telling us that secret.
Yeah,
It is a very good movie.
Little pro tip.
That stays between us.
Yeah. I agree. The voice acting towards the end I thought was incredible. Just having basically, it was almost like episode 3. You are the chosen one. But I love just hearing Peter scream you are my hero. And then it's such a simple line, but I loved it so much where Doc Ock is just almost trying to explain things to him. He's like, this means so much to me. And Spider-Man's like, not as much as it means to me. Just having very clear, just expressing. You could not be more simple on a storytelling level, but it's still fun to hear those two just, no, I'm very confident that I need to do this because it means a lot to me.
I in general agree, but for me, it was the moment where right, this is the same guy who does Yosuke in Persona 4 when he started yelling. I was like, I recognize that voice actor now.
This is Spider-Man's voice actor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you
okay.
didn't recognize him until the last
No,
fight.
I felt like he was doing a pretty good job of sort of not, of using his a normal voice, but not sort of being the Yuri Lowenthal voice. But when he started yelling, it definitely felt like this is sort of the intonations of his voice started coming into place for me of this is that character that does other voices.
Right, sure. Tom from Redmond, Washington says, hey, GI folks, hello. Let's talk about the end of the Doc Ock fight. That look on Peter's face when Otto was begging for another chance just crushed me. You realize that Spider-Man has to choose between dooming his mentor to live all his days out as a vegetable or letting him use technology that will eat his brain to save his body. Either way, Otto will never be whole again, and Peter can't provide a positive outcome for him no matter what he does. F, says Tom.
Press F to pay respects.
Yeah, the final line. Hey, what the... Dustin W. writes in from Clanton, Alabama, and he says, they killed Aunt May!
Wait, what?
Yeah. Didn't think they would do it, but I felt it coming towards the end. Is this the first time May has died in a Superman story? Sorry, Spider-Man?
Yes, in a Superman story, yes.
All right.
bold new
All right,
direction for
everybody.
that.
All right.
She's died a couple times.
Oh, she has?
Yeah, she died once, and then it was revealed at the end that she knew exactly that he was Spider-Man the whole time. So it was kind of like echoes of that.
Oh, okay.
But then it turned out that was just a plant from Norman Osborn, that he had hired an actor to play Aunt May, and he'd kidnapped the real Aunt May.
That's probably what
held her
happened here.
hostage for years.
I think
yeah.
didn't she also die in that One More Day storyline where it was right after Civil War and that's why he wished for
Yeah, she was about to die, and the only way to save her was to make a deal with the
With the
devil.
devil, yeah.
The people are not happy about that.
That seems odd. Vanna Winland says, hey there, writing in to talk about how incredible, though extremely sad, the scene with Spider-Man and Peter Parker waiting by Aunt May's hospital bed is. The fact that Peter tried to stay strong and act heroic, saying things like, it's going to be okay, ma'am, while we know he's struggling to not let his emotions get the best of him in this moment was so powerful. I agree. When he's leaving the suit on, that's so good. Even when he has the chance to save May with the antidote, he resists his want to act on it because it would mean killing hundreds of others. The scene meant so much to Peter, Spider-Man's character, because it proved that he's selfless and willing to do the right thing, even if it hurts him. Also, when Peter took his mask off and broke down by Aunt May's bedside, it really showed how human he is. It made me think how much I've done as Spider-Man up until that point, and realizing, whoa, at his core, Peter's just a regular guy who happened to get some powers, yet he's beaten up some of the scummiest of scum villains. Yeah, what do you guys think of that sequence in particular?
I was I didn't think she was going to die, even until the moment where she flatlined. I was like, well, she's not going to die. And then you heard the sound. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my mouth dropped open at that point.
It's effective. It really worked for me. Even, I think it speaks a lot that it even has the most dumb comic book setup for that moment of we only have enough in this container to either cure this person or the entire
Or
city.
everybody.
But you just quickly let it go because I think the performances are so good. When Peter gets down, he's just I don't know what to do. And he's crying. So good.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was the sort of crystallization of what I think is the theme of Act 3, which is sort of you start the game sort of 8 years into Peter's sort of career as Spider-Man. He's super confident, he knows what he's doing, and then Act 3 is sort of that slowly falling apart because early on it's the idea of all these things are happening and I don't know which one to tackle first, and it's sort of he's starting to stretch himself thin, and then over the course of the act it feels like sort of the Spider-Man becomes not enough, and then he sort of starts having to deal with the repercussions of when his heroism alone isn't enough to solve every problem.
Right. And what's the
Yeah,
solution?
it's almost like Superman.
Another
like a
Spider-Man.
Superman story.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, he's like, sweet. Now I can take the load off. Chris,
Now your relatives can die.
I'll see to it. Chris,
Oh, he's the villain in the next game.
Who's your uncle?
who's your uncle?
Bob?
Chris from Portland, Tennessee says, well, it's official. I've teared up at the ending of 2 video games now. Halo 4 and Spider-Man. Of course.
So
Halo 4.
Halo 4. Isn't that
Wait,
interesting?
how does that one end?
Oh, I don't know. He said he got some bad news.
They
while he
screwed
was
up the
playing.
Halo War.
No.
I'm sorry, your dog's dead.
Henry from Gettysburg says, hey, dudes, honest show of hands, who teared up at the end? And what was it that got you? For me, it was when May said, I'm proud of you, and Ben would have been too.
Oh,
Did you guys tear up?
I did not tear up.
Okay.
I don't have a soul.
Yeah. Closest I came was MJ saying, oh my God, but I still didn't tear
I feel
up.
like the and Ben would have been too. I think that was probably the closest. Like that was the most thinking got me.
And what does
for
it
sure.
look like when a game is close to making you cry?
Oh it got me.
Cool. Hang on, let me write that down. This is making me cry. Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna quote me on that one.
William A. has other thoughts. He says, hey guys, so I finished the game last night, and first off, I really enjoyed the experience, but maybe felt I overhyped the game in my head going into it. I felt as though they rushed the Sinister Six battles too quickly in an effort to progress further, and I didn't like how they made Martin Lee's character feel more like background noise the farther it went. While the final cutscene with Octavius was an amazing scene, the ending was just so abrupt. May dies. 10 seconds later, a funeral clip. 10 seconds later, he's kissing MJ in a diner. Credits. Then Miles faking flashing Peter. It just seemed to me such a weird way to wrap up an overall fantastic game, and I haven't heard many people bring this up online. Also, Peter's face looks so weird compared to the other faces. It seems as though they really aged his skin.
Specifically, cutting from the kiss with Mary Jane, it's like such a quiet scene, and then the credits are softly brought up. It just didn't feel like how superhero movies end.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have slammed to credits on something interesting.
Him swinging towards the camera.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Landing on the
yeah.
flagpole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's also weird because I feel like it has the same problem as Marvel movies do, where it's like they kind of don't end sort of well because you're always expecting, okay, what's the next scene? Is there going to be a post-credit scene? Or what's going to happen
lingering
next?
thing.
Even as the credits are rolling, it's kind of like a weird thing. But
I mean, I think overall though, I thought that ending was great.
yeah,
It was good. Yeah,
and,
I
and
liked it.
I think even before then, I feel like I understand it does feel a little compressed in terms of this thing is happening so fast, but I feel like that speaks to the sort of the momentum with which all of this stuff is sort of falling around Peter as he's going on. I feel like it fits even if it is sort of cramped up in terms of pacing.
Yeah.
I resonate with a few of his issues, let's say. Just like the Sinister Six did feel a little rushed in my mind.
Right.
And it was all the back third of the game. So felt like we could have spaced that out a little bit more. The same thing with Martin Lee. They set him up to be this big figure, and then he kind of dwindled near the end of the game. So I get some of that.
Yeah. Alec also writes in and says they really should have gotten Naughty Dog's lip technology for that last kiss. I guess I didn't notice it looking janky at all.
Oh, I didn't
It was a
notice
little
it.
weird.
A little weird. Kiss
Yeah.
experts.
It looks
they're
how
the best
most of
guys.
That's
my
right.
kisses look.
Let's
film.
see. This is interesting. Jay Purrington writes in and just says, "Hey, do you think this game has a chance to reach a wider audience than Spider-Man: Homecoming?"
I don't know.
I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming is pretty big.
Yeah. And also, Matt Cohn from Cashin, Wisconsin just says, the greatest achievement of this game is that it has such a wide net of availability. It's a basic Spider-Man story, but also services fans. It's really crazy that it walked that line successfully.
Unless you like Xbox, you can.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a $400 console barrier that Homecoming does not have.
Yeah, you're right. That whole thing. Let's see. People are excited about DLC. We are too. Maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast in the future. Simple question here. Mitch C says, with the conclusion of this game, looking towards the sequel, that for sure is going to happen, would you be satisfied if the second game also took place in New York City?
Yeah, I don't know why not.
They could add Queens and stuff.
Yeah, they could add one of the boroughs
Totally.
or something.
Yeah.
And it probably will dive into Peter's backstory a little bit more with his parents, and that'll be a reason to go to Queens.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think if they sort of if they change up the side objectives enough, I feel like and also use a different district, I think they could do enough to sort of freshen that city up if you're sort of involved in different things. Because if it's more backpacks, more sort of those more trivial objectives, I feel like it will feel very samey. But I think they can do enough with that city to make it feel new again.
Also, New York's a cool city. I never complain when they watch 2 movies in a row that are both set in New York. It's a cool background for things. You just have to have interesting missions.
Well, look at
and
Yakuza,
other
for
collectibles
example.
and stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many games have been set in those cities over and over again? Here's a weird one. Not weird, nice. Steve Winters from York, Pennsylvania says, hey, this game has been amazing, and the podcast is a way to get a slight Spider-Man fix while I'm at work and listen on Fridays. Thank you. This game has also been a nice way to get my brother's mind off his cancer. It'd be nice to have some of Osborn's GR27 cure. Interesting. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or Pity Parker for that matter, but my brother's diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma recently, and video games have been a good way for us to connect. Even though this game is not multiplayer, it's been an incredible experience for the both of us. We talk about it a lot, and listening to the Game Club pretty much echoes our opinions for the most part. He says Reeves are just off the mark. No. Anyway, could you send some well wishes his way? I think he'd really get a kick out of it. It would make his day. His name is Kev, but everybody calls him Kevy.
Kevy.
Hey, come on, Kevy. Thank you. Hope you like the game, Kevy.
we're pulling for ya.
Podcastagainformer.com. Let us know what you think. And then they say, hopefully Red Dead 2 will be next. Kevy, Red Dead 2. Kevy, Red Dead 2. Tell us if you want us to do Red Dead 2. I feel it's almost like the freight train that we can't dodge is doing Red Dead 2 as the next Game Club. But there's a part of me that wants to dodge it and just do Balloon Fight or something weird.
Yeah.
Game Club for
Honestly, that'd be kind of cool. Do one small like weirdo game.
Yeah.
Red Dead's gonna be so huge.
That's gonna be such a large ordeal. I have to imagine Red Dead's gonna be way longer than Spider-Man, though.
It's going to be 3 seasons of Game Club. Do Red Dead.
We hope you like it.
Yeah.
And we're only going to Game Club the PS4 version of Red Dead.
That's
so
right. Exactly.
Xbox players don't talk to us.
Sorry, you can't even play it.
I'm very sorry to all the Xbox fans that listen to the podcast. But hey, maybe you don't have to buy a PS4 and Spider-Man because you listen to this. You get the full experience, you know? So we're saving you money in a weird way.
That's right.
So you owe us money.
Podcastinginformer.com. Google Wallet it. We'll make it work. What do you guys think about Spider-Man overall? Any big takeaways we haven't hit yet? I feel like we kind of missed the overall assessment. But Leo, final thoughts on the game.
It's a fun game. I don't beat many games that I play. And I don't know if I would have beaten this one if we didn't do the Game Club. I would have left it on good terms, but like 10 hours in, I would have been like, okay, I get it.
Really? That's shocking.
Just because the story never quite clicked with me and I never really wanted to.
Wait,
Well,
story
but
never clicked. That's
You
crazy.
don't seem like a guy who's like crazy about story though all the time.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, I liked the gameplay and I got to play a lot of it and then I was happy.
Okay.
But it was like, I will keep doing this so that we can talk about it on the Game Club. And then by the third act, I came around because I liked those boss battles so much.
Sure.
Wow, that's really surprising. Okay.
But you were pretty excited about this going in too.
Yeah, definitely.
Just for the gameplay.
I really beat 10% of the games I start, honestly.
What's the last one you beat?
Spider-Man.
Cool. Serial, what
I
do
don't
you
know.
think of the
I
overall game?
leave every game at the last level. It's a problem.
I think I was pretty impressed with the story overall.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's like, I think Homecoming is still like far and away my favorite Spider-Man like story so far I'm not a big comics guy, but like,
Yeah.
but I think this does a pretty good job of sort of planting the Spider-Man story in a video game in a way that doesn't feel like cheesy or forced.
Yeah.
And it's probably better than like the Garland, is that his name? Those Spider-Man movies?
Andrew
Amazing
Garfield?
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Eric
I think
Garland?
I don't know, man.
I'd watch
Gar
that.
people are all the same to me. But yeah, I think it's better than those two movies. But yeah, maybe I haven't watched the Tobey Maguire ones, but in a long time.
Oh, okay.
I haven't, so I wouldn't know. But like, I feel like this is a pretty solid story told in a video game that happens to have Spider-Man. And like, as Spider-Man being my favorite superhero, I think this does pretty well. Like, I think it does right by him.
Yeah, I know on the podcast when Kyle and Reiner were talking about the game, I stumped them by just saying, what's the story about? And I found myself kind of coming back to that theme at the end of Act 3, and it's like, I guess it's about letting go of the past and letting go of vengeance. Is that the conclusion here?
Just kind of looking at it from their perspective, it's like, how would you have like encapsulated the story without spoiling anything?
Right.
Too, it's like it would have been kind of hard to like talk.
I guess it's about
too much.
vengeance. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
Vengeance,
I
yeah.
I feel like this game is a lot more about plot than it is sort of like themes on like more or less. It
Okay.
feels like, but yeah, I like the game overall. I don't know that I would. I think people were talking about it's like, I don't know if it's God of War might have some competition, but I don't think it's in that realm at all. But this is like pretty solid game. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I know Elise and I think JV said it was her favorite game of the year right now,
Yeah.
which is surprising over God of War.
It's mine too. Yeah. But
really?
God of War I liked is not at the top of my list of the year. It just didn't click for me the way it clicked for everybody else. But
Reese, your
really like
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man.
this is your favorite character of all time. I need to know your read on this game in general, other than
I
it's
liked
my
it a
game of the
lot.
year.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the best Spider-Man game ever.
Yeah.
It's like for me, there were highs that matched the Arkham games.
Yeah.
It just was filled with a lot of more like clutter that wasn't up to the same bar, and so some of my my excitement was diminished a little bit by like, oh, I'm grinding through and doing all these crimes, or I'm finding this dumb.
That's
like,
your
little
fault for
cat.
doing 100%.
It is,
frankly.
I guess, but it's like, yeah. So it's maybe my fault for loving the character so much that I wanted to do it all, but
compared to other like Spider-Man stories, I mean, is this upper echelon or
it's up there? Yeah, it's upper echelon, I would say.
Okay.
I really like their portrayal of Doc Ock specifically, and I liked their relationship with Mary Jane. Like Mary Jane is a character that is like kind of a party girl in the comics for a long time, and never really. It feels like, especially recently, she's had trouble sort of like clicking and like finding her place, and so it was kind of really cool to see their portrayal of her in this as well.
Did she surprise you?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about surprise, but
No.
yeah, I
Other
liked
than when she
her.
jumped off that roof, I think that was the
Yeah,
only
maybe
time
that was a surprise. That's what Brian was talking about. Yes,
when you
I
got
would
the stealth takedown, that was a little surprising. I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
She was surprisingly into that too. She's like, "Good boy," and crap. Like she's like
Yeah.
tasing those guys. Like, all right, MJ, all right.
It kept having flashbacks to American Animals. If anybody's seen that,
No.
The idea that tasing someone will knock them out in one stun is explored in American Animals.
What is American Animal?
Is it true?
It's about some college kids stealing paintings. I don't want to spoil any of it. It's
Sounds
really,
freaky.
really good.
Also, the number of times someone is able to punch someone out in one hit,
Yeah.
kind of high. Like Miles does it, feels a little weird.
Oh, right.
How fragile humans are in that universe.
Had he been bitten by that point?
No.
I don't think
Okay,
so.
yeah. At the time it happened, I was like, maybe he got bitten off screen and he's got powers now.
Yeah.
Because that's weird.
Yeah.
Also, I love-
Spider-Man
come on,
told
have
him
you ever
one
taken a
line about
punch? Like
Spider-Man.
if the punch can X-ray, you can get knocked out.
Prove it.
Thank
I thought the sequence was funny because he was like stealthing around, and because I was stuck there for so long, I was stealthing around for a long time around Rhino, and then he like walks 20 feet, sees two criminals, and was like, "Hey, you leave her alone!" Like starts like yelling at these criminals, like the Rhino is still right over there, dude. Are you out of your mind?
That's crazy.
Anyways, it's a good story.
Oh, but you?
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
You really liked it?
Yeah,
Hold up?
in my mind, and I know I've never played one before, but this is about as good as a Spider-Man game could be, and that is a crazy feat. And it's nice. I brought it up in Act 1, but it's fun to have these types of experiences that remind you why you like something that's just generally in pop culture. It's like, okay, yeah. Spider-Man. We've spent our whole lives with Spider-Man, but to create something that stands out that reminds people, oh, Spider-Man is really cool. That's a monumental task. And so, yeah, overall, I was much more impressed by the story and specifically the writing than I thought.
They did justice to the character, which I appreciated. And like the combat was more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely came around to the combat pretty well. Like even
Yeah.
though it can be a little repetitive because I feel like I found my combo and it doesn't seem like the game really gives you options, like reasons to vary up your combos.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's not Devil May Cry, but like honestly, like because it's a little bit simpler than that. It appeals to a wider audience.
I also feel that it does a good job of making you feel like the character of like I'm zipping around between different bad guys and sort of like throwing them around and using a lot of webs. Like it's a pretty good combat that feels like a Spider-Man specific combo system.
Right.
And
right.
very freeform. They
Yeah.
described him in the cover trip videos as the acrobatic improviser, and I feel like they completely nailed that.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought that Insomniac, congrats, good job, and I'm
Are you
really,
shaking their hand?
That's right. I'm shaking their invisible Miles
Thank you,
Morales hand.
Insomniac.
Their forearms. Wait a minute, whose hands are we shaking?
Get his neural chip.
That's
But
dumb.
I'm really looking forward to see what they do next.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years away, which is kind of sad, but
Yeah, it's going to be a long haul. Exciting times. Hey, Spider-Man, thank you for absolutely everybody that played along with us. I'm amazed at the number of emails we got. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. podcast@GameInformer.com for all feedback. And for the next Game Club, let's do it again, guys.
Let's do it again. This is super fun. I look forward to it every week.
Do you really?
Yeah, it was great.
Oh,
Talk
sweet.
about video games.
I like it. I
like it.
Wait a minute. I like the Game Club. It freaks me out when I have dozens and dozens of pieces of paper, but it's always nice to I feel like give the game the discussion it deserves.
And even in general, just an episodic exploration of something, like with, all TV shows coming to Netflix a full season at a time,
Right.
that kind of theory pitching, like it never really happens anymore, I feel like.
yeah.
Yeah, more theory pitching, says Lou.
Have people written in on what they want us to do next?
Red Dead. And stop playing PlayStation games, you cowards. That's basically how it works. Anyway,
Forza Horizon 4 Game Club coming up.
guys, this episode is so long. So on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new exciting episode with a cover reveal in it, everybody. This will be fun. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Did you even play
How
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man claps? Oh, he did. I did.